Keiger is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old climate control installer Michael Hunter, for an unpaid loan to move into a sober living house. Michael says he paid back the loan by doing chores.
Order. All rise. This case number 7 on the calendar in the matter of Keiger versus Hunter.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Keiger, according to your complaint, while you were in a relationship with the defendant, you made a loan to him, a couple of $100s.
Yes.
When did you make him this loan and what for?
On January 30th, I received my income tax return. And he was at my house. He had gotten kicked out of his residential drug facility. And after a week of being at my house, he had the option from his parole officer to either go back to the treatment facility or go into clean and sober living. And so he asked me to borrow the $200.
Well, what's the difference between a drug program and the clean and sober living?
He had more freedom in Pancho Villa than he would in the residential treatment facility.
What were you on parole for?
Residential burglary.
What was the condition of your parole?
That I'd have to say in either a residential treatment program or a sober living home.
So why didn't you stay in the residential drug program?
Because I got kicked out of the residential
Why?
program. For sneaking out to see her.
And for drinking. Don't let him tell you that. It's for drinking also.
No, Your Honor. That's a lie right there. You can call the program and ask. No, I've never given a dirty test since I've been out of prison.
They don't give urine tests for alcohol.
Yes, they do, ma'am. You can call my parole officer and ask him. I cannot drink or be around alcohol, and they test me for alcohol at the parole office and at the program.
Mike, that's why you're drunk at my house moving me.
Okay, did she give you $200?
Yes, Your Honor. She offered me $200.
Okay, tell me about the $200. You
She
wanted to go
offered-
into this.
Offered? I have 2 kids.
Listen to me. When I look in your direction, that's when you talk.
All right.
And I'm looking in his direction. Now tell me under what circumstances you say she gave you the $200.
She gave me the $200 knowing that I just got out of prison.
Don't tell me what knowing. I don't want to hear knowing.
Okay,
What did you say to her? What did she say to you? You said to her, I need $200 in order to go into this other program, and I don't have it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. And she said to you?
She said to me that you can borrow the $200, but I would have to help her pay it back. She knew that I did not have a job.
Just don't tell me what she knew.
Okay.
She said you would help her pay it back. Pay it back to whom?
Pay it back to her.
Now, all right, let's make this simple, Mr. Hunter. She said that you could borrow the money, but that you would have to pay it back.
Most definitely.
Am I looking in your direction?
Am
I looking in your direction?
No.
Don't speak unless I look in your direction. She said you could borrow the money.
Correct.
And you would have to pay it back.
Not correct.
That's what you just told me.
I have to pay it back, but not in cash. I was to help her move, watch her kids, pick her kids up at school several times, which I did, take her friend, which is over there to Fairfield, to see a friend of hers that's in the county jail, fix her car, and that pretty much cleared up all the money issue.
When did you help her move?
I forget the exact date that she moved. You remember the exact date?
No, don't ask her any questions.
Okay.
If I want to know from her, I'd ask her.
I forget the exact date.
Before or
that
after
moved.
she gave you the $200?
This was before she moved.
Just a second. Listen to me very carefully, because I know that you have a little trouble understanding, sir. Did you help her move before or after she gave you the $200?
I just answered your question the same way.
That she
Yes.
moved before.
She gave me the money before I helped her move. That's exactly what I said. She gave me the money, and then I helped her move.
When did you go into this new program?
After she moved. I don't have the exact date, Your Honor.
I know the exact date.
Give me the date.
Here, I cashed my check on my income tax check on 1/30/01. That is the day that he moved into Pancho Villa. I moved on February 2nd. That was not the agreement.
Just a second. What date did he move into the facility?
January 30th.
The same day that you gave him the money?
I took him there.
So you were living in the program on the day she moved?
No, at the program that I was at, I didn't have to stay there every day. I can go out, come and go pretty much as I want.
Did he help you move?
Yes, he did help me move.
Okay, tell me what he did.
He helped take 2 loads of stuff to my house.
Okay, what else did you do for her?
I put all of her kids' beds together, picked her kids up from school. She actually had put my name down at her kids' school as a person to be able to pick up her kids in emergency.
Okay.
Yeah.
And picked up her kids several times. And also took her friend down to Fairfield. The lady sitting over there took her friend down to Fairfield to the county jail to see her friend.
He is lying.
Okay. What did I tell you?
Okay.
There was a period of time when you lived with the plaintiff, is that right?
Correct.
When was that?
That was in the month of January.
The entire month of January?
No.
I'm going to throw you out. Do you understand?
All right.
Next time, we're not talking about a lot of money. It would be very easy for me to just to say goodbye to you. You got it?
Mm-hmm.
During the entire month of January?
No, only about a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Let's say 2 weeks. And you slept there?
Correct.
You ate there?
Actually, I had some money of my own. I still have my gate money from when I left school. I went and bought my own food.
How much money?
They gave me $200 gate money.
You mean when they threw you out of the program, they gave you
No,
$200?
when they kicked me out of prison.
They didn't kick you out of prison.
Yeah, I mean when I got
wanted
released
to stay?
from prison. I'm sorry.
You wanted to stay in prison? Huh?
No.
You wanted to stay in prison?
No.
How much money did you give her towards rent in those 2 weeks?
During those 2 weeks, I helped her clean up around the house
Just
because I was buying my own food and buying food for them.
Answer my question, sir. I want the question answered. How much money did you give her towards rent when you were living there?
Nothing.
When you went to pick up her children on those couple of occasions, did you use her car?
Correct.
Did you ever use her car for your own personal business?
No, I did not.
Did he ever use your car for his own personal
Yes,
business?
he did.
Of course he did.
Yes, he did.
Where did he go?
He went to the parole officer.
Of course he did. He had to go in and check in periodically with the parole officer. And how did you get there, sir?
I would take the bus.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Oh, no.
I would hop on BART and take BART and then catch the 80
of
bus
course you did.
to Vallejo.
Are you telling me, sir, that you never took her car to go and visit your parole officer?
No, I did not. I got bus vouchers from my parole officer to use.
Really?
Yes.
Very interesting.
She wouldn't allow me to use her car for personal purposes.
Really? That doesn't sound like it was very generous of her.
Well, there's a lot of things that don't sound very generous
So
about
why
her.
didn't you,
can call
what'd you
my
stay
parole
there
officer.
for 2 weeks for?
Well, as she says, the sex was good, pretty much, is why she let me stay there. And it
Really?
was. I was down 22 months, and I stayed there for the same reason.
Really? So you had it all stored up? Right, is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Not.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Trinity Kiger says ex-boyfriend Michael Hunter owes her for an unpaid loan and the return of 2 CDs.
Not.
And also, can I be allowed to say something about her character? You
No,
can call
I
my
don't want to
parole
hear
officer.
anything about her character. I
Well,
hear
I
enough
believe
about your
I
character.
believe it's very important to deal with this case. Something that you can verify by calling my parole officer and find out.
I'll hear you.
Okay. The night that we broke up, she came down and had my old roommate let both of these 2 in. She came in and punched my new girlfriend in the nose, smacked me around 10 times. The only reason I didn't call the police and press charges is because she had threatened to say that I had beat her up, put bruises on her, and file a domestic violence case against me.
Now, this is very interesting. You're supposed to be in
A sober
clean
living
and
home.
sober program, and you're living with a new girlfriend.
No.
How did that come about?
My new girlfriend was over visiting
Visiting where?
at the sober living home.
Okay. When? Give me the date.
My parole officer would have the date because I went there
I'm
the very
asking
next
you
day.
the date.
I told you I don't have
How
the
much
exact date.
How much after she gave you the $200?
This was probably about a month and a half, 2 months.
Well, if she gave you the money, sir, sometime in, let's say, the end of January.
I believe
It
sometime
had-
in March.
Well, that's just a few weeks afterwards
No,
that you had a new
it's about,
girlfriend.
like I said,
4
about a month,
weeks,
a month and a
5
half.
weeks.
About,
Yeah.
I'd say about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks.
And when did you get the new girlfriend? That she,
I started a job working at Walmart, and I found a woman there that was actually
Nicer to you.
treated me a lot better.
when did you start the job at Walmart?
I started it when I first got there to that program, so it was in February. I started that there.
And so you found somebody else right away?
No, like I said, it was about 5 to 6 weeks that I
You're a
actually started
sleazy
talking.
character. Pay her back a $200. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank
Parties
you.
are excused. You may step out.
When she came down and smacked me around in the face 10 times and hit my girlfriend in the nose, everything right then and there, any chances of me ever paying her back would have been out.
And he thought because he was, you know, having sex with me that was going to cure the problem, and it didn't.
And now the next case.
All parties on Mills versus Trelfa. Step forward, please.
23-year-old customer service rep Jason Mills is suing 38-year-old business owner Karen Trelfa for damage to his snowmobile resulting from a collision. Karen is countersuing for damage to her snowmobile, claiming the accident was Jason's fault.
Mr. Mills, you were on an outing and you were what is it called?
Snowmobiling.
Snowmobiling. And it is your claim that the defendant, who was also snowmobiling, had an accident and plowed into your snowmobile, which was in a stationary position.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you and your party created a dangerous situation. She's an experienced snowmobiler, and she wants you to pay for the damage to her snowmobile. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So tell me when this happened.
Well, on February 11th, 2001, we had rented a snowmobile. We were sledding with four total sleds, 6 individuals on the sleds. We had stopped on the far right of the trail, off of the groomed path, onto the powder. I saw the defendant and her husband, whose sled was in front of hers, coming at us at a high rate of speed. Within a milliseconds of his passing through his powder, I saw the defendant's sled sliding toward us. She made impact with us. I was thrown from the sled, landed on my neck.
You were sitting on the sled.
I was standing directly next to my sled. I was the only person standing at the time. Everyone else was still sitting on their sleds facing forward. I was thrown up, landed on my neck. Anita was thrown from the sled and landed in a snowbank. The impact was severe enough to throw her boot from her body. If you look where the other sleds were parked, Mrs. Trolfa ended up toward the first and second sled. She made impact at the rear of our sled, slid down the trail. Now, immediately after, Mrs. Trolfa did come and immediately check to see if we were okay. Mr. Trolfa, of course, was worried about the condition of the sled.
What did he say?
Well, he acknowledged that her sled was pretty much trashed. Our sled, the damage was pretty severe. The frame itself was bent. I believe when you see the photographs, the frame on her sled is severely damaged. The top.
Do you have photographs?
Yes, I do. Would you like to see them?
Please.
That is her sled. This is my sled.
Is hers.
The red-colored portion of her sled was actually detached upon impact. It's just laying on.
Step up, sir. When did you realize that your wife had been in an accident?
After coming to a stop, after avoiding these people, there was people in snowmobiles parked in the trail, and I had to actually go around them on the left, up on the berm off the groomed section to go around them, and that is where I came to a stop.
What was the reason, sir, that you stopped your snowmobile?
Because I realized that there was an accident waiting to happen, an accident in progress, and my wife was probably getting
how could you tell
hurt.
there was an accident in progress?
I turned around.
Sit down, sir. Okay, let me hear your version of this accident.
We were traveling from this direction down the trail. When I came over the hill, I noticed 4 snowmobiles parked along the right-hand side. There were people on this side and people on this side of the trail. My husband went to the left, which is off the trail. This line.
You see stupid written here?
No, I don't, ma'am.
Then you explain to me what possible rationale there would be to park the snowmobiles on one side and then for the people to be standing on the other side, not near their snowmobiles. You explain that to me.
Well, it does not practice safe snowmobiling procedure.
No. Of course it wouldn't. It would practice somebody being
Your
on
Honor,
drugs.
Your
Leave
Honor,
their
I can help with
snowmobiles
this.
on one side. Now I could see if you put them near where their snowmobiles were and you say that they were on the trail. But why would somebody get off their snowmobile, leave it on one side of the road, and walk over to the other side of the road? Why would somebody do that?
I don't know why they chose to. I would assume that they were taking photographs.
But your husband made it.
Which,
your husband made it.
yes, he did. And when he went to this side, this person here ran across the front of the trail, which is where I was headed.
Go ahead.
I couldn't go right behind him. I would have been going too fast, and I would have ended up possibly hitting him because he was in some very deep snow and had stopped very quickly. So I had tried to get between this person and this snowmobile. He must have startled this person, and they ran across the trail. So I grabbed my handlebars and turned them sideways in order to turn my snowmobile so that I either flipped it before I got to this person or at least did not hit this person nose first and really throw them.
Your Honor, I don't know how she could claim that she saw people on the far left side of the trail, especially since I am the only person who was standing next to a sled at the time of impact.
Where were the other people?
They were still on their sleds.
According to your answer, you've been snowmobiling for 30 years. Is that right?
12 years.
12 years.
We do almost 3,000 miles a winter, so almost 30,000 miles.
And is this area that you were snowmobiling in well-traveled?
Yes.
A lot of people there?
Yes.
Sometimes experienced?
Yes.
Sometimes not?
Yes.
Their bikes were stationary when you hit them?
Yes.
You're responsible.
No, ma'am.
Period. Oh, yes, you are. Oh, yes, even if I believe you, and I don't believe a lot of what you told me, nobody would leave their snowmobile in the middle of the road and go
They
and
were
take
not in
pictures.
the middle.
In the middle of the road and go take pictures.
They were not in the middle.
Right. So if they were not in the middle and you are a 12-year experienced veteran, you're supposed to be cautious.
And I was.
You are supposed to be cautious. No, if you were cautious, you wouldn't hit them.
I was 100 feet from the line of sight. They were in a very limited visibility area.
Then you're supposed to be more careful.
I was traveling at a very safe rate of speed.
Well, how could you be traveling at a safe rate of speed causing this damage?
They trapped the area and enclosed it.
I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that they created the kind of hazardous situation that you attribute to them. Maybe some of these sleds weren't totally off the road. Maybe some of them were hanging over a little bit. But you've got a counterclaim. You want them to pay for your sled. You hit them. And you don't know who it was who ran across the road. If you claim somebody ran across the road creating a hazardous situation, it certainly wasn't him. He got thrown from his bike.
It was her.
Oh, you mean you remember that?
Yes. And if he was the only one that was standing next to the trail, how did she get between me and their snowmobile that was to the right of me?
I don't know. What?
Now, is she claiming that I was on the other side of this trail and running across?
Yes.
Well, if that is the case, how was I thrown from my snowmobile and into the snowbank?
Were you on the snowmobile with him?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and he was standing?
Yes.
And you were sitting on
I
the
was
side?
sitting on the back of the sled.
I don't know how she can claim that. Where were the rest of the people?
They were all on their sleds, sitting on their sleds.
Sounds more right to me. You hit his snowmobile while his snowmobile was in a stationary position, period. His snowmobile, according to you, was well on the side of this road, and there was plenty of room for you to pass. Your husband had passed. There was plenty of room for you to pass.
Except for the people stepped out into the trail.
Listen, that happens. I don't believe it was her. She says she was sitting on the snowmobile. It's possible that somebody else ran out. You have to anticipate that. That's not his job to anticipate it. That's your job to anticipate it because you're moving.
I agree.
Good. Then you have to pay for his damage. Judgment for the plaintiff for $1,245, which is what it's going to take to fix the snowmobile. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They behaved in a...
Giela is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old fast food worker Raymond Roberts, for the return of money meant for her prom, an unpaid loan, and the return of property. Raymond is countersuing for a false restraining order.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 30 on the matter. Okay, Your Honor, this is case number 30 in the matter of Rav Giala versus Roberts.
Thank you.
Get a little tongue-tied now and then. The parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
What's your first name?
Jennifer.
How old are you, Jennifer?
I'm 18. I just turned 18 3 days ago.
Order.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
How old are you, Mr. Roberts?
23.
What's your first name?
Raymond.
Jennifer, Raymond was your boyfriend.
Yep.
You claim he owes you some money. Not a whole lot of money. $300-some-odd.
Yep.
You said he owes you the money for the following two items. You gave him $100 in which to put down as a deposit for the limousine for your senior prom.
That's right.
And you had an argument, and he kept the money, and he didn't take you to the prom. And you acknowledged that you kept the $100.
I guess I did.
And then you say that over the course of your relationship, you sold candy for school, and he took your candy money. And about that, Mr. Roberts says, she took me out for dinner, and we went places together.
That's not true.
I'm just telling you what he says. That's his answer. Then you say that he came to your house when you weren't home with a police officer and took a Christmas gift that he had bought you.
That's right.
Which was?
Supposedly it was a stereo. I did buy a stereo, but it was not a gift.
A stereo that was in her house.
A stereo that was at her house.
And you took that and you want the value of that back, or the stereo back.
Yep.
You say it was a Christmas gift.
Yep, it was.
Now, Raymond says that you owed him money for a Sprint bill.
That's not true.
Just telling you what he says. And that he merely was collecting on that. That's what the $100 was for?
Yeah,
as
the $100,
well
yeah.
as the stereo.
The stereo. The stereo was mine. I was taking it back.
And Raymond is counterclaiming, he said, because you and your mother sort of overreacted to a little argument you were having and had him arrested for kidnapping you.
He was never arrested.
Shh. And he was forced to defend these charges temporarily, right?
Right.
How old was she when you started to date her, Raymond?
17.
And how old were you?
At the time, I was 22.
Not terrible, not terrific. What did she owe you money for?
She owes me money for the Sprint bill for the 2 months.
Now, how is it that you're paying her Sprint bill?
I have 2 phones, and I let her use one of my other phones. And we agreed that...
Just a minute. You got a phone for yourself.
Yes, I've got
And
a
you
phone.
gave her a phone.
Yes, under my name.
And when did you do that? How long ago?
I think it might have been sometime in October. I might have gave her the phone, September, October.
She was 17.
Correct.
And you had an agreement with her.
Yes.
And what was your agreement?
That we'd split the bill in half. I'd pay my half, she'd pay her half.
That's not right.
So what you're telling me is you had a verbal contract with her.
Correct.
You can't.
Can't.
Right. She's not old enough. She's not old enough to make that contract. She has to be 18 in order to make a contract that's valid and binding. So, Raymond, that's one of the downsides of dating a younger woman.
I'm learning that now.
So she owes you diddly.
Okay.
So let's start with, you owe her $100 for the limousine.
Okay.
So $100, Jennifer, is on your side.
Yep.
Now, I don't want to hear about the candy money. I want you to forget the candy money. If you were dumb enough to give him candy money or to spend candy money, I don't want to hear about it. Yes, you want to say something? It sounded like you were winning the candy money.
No, she still has belongings of mine at her house.
I'm not there yet.
Okay.
We are now on the stereo
All right.
that she says was a Christmas present, and you said was just yours.
This is fine.
When did you get the stereo?
Christmas Eve was put in my house, and my mom was actually there. And he actually said to her, you know, this is a Christmas gift. I bought it for her.
And it was in your house starting Christmas time?
Yep.
When did you take it out of the house?
I think it was like March.
So, December to January, January to February, February to March. It was in her house for 3 months.
Correct.
Who do you live with?
My grandparents.
Do you have your own room?
Yes.
You have a stereo?
No.
So if you bought the stereo in December, I assume that that's what the receipt says, that it was purchased in December?
Correct.
What date in December?
17th, which she was with me.
If it was purchased in December and you don't have a stereo in your room, why didn't you take it to your house?
I was letting her use it.
Baloney. Let me see the bill. You have the perks of a younger woman. You have to have the plagues of a younger woman. Plague is she's not old enough to make a contract. Okay, so this whole thing cost $189?
Correct.
Where's the stereo now?
At my house.
In your?
In my room.
In your room?
In my room.
Where it would have been from the very beginning if it was bought for you. Now, a couple of other questions just for my own information, sir. What did Jennifer get you for Christmas?
Electric shaver and a couple of shirts.
A couple of shirts?
Yes.
What did you get for Jennifer for Christmas? See what I mean? Got where I'm going?
Yeah.
Raymond? Got where I'm going?
Yes, I do.
Good. So we have $289 on your side, because now Raymond gets it. Right, Raymond?
Yes.
Didn't think fast enough.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get to your counterclaim.
Okay.
You had an argument in the car.
Correct.
What date?
March 5th to be exact.
And the argument was about your being cheap?
If you want to put it that way.
What?
If you want to put it that way.
Well, that's what it was about. You're being cheap. You're mooching off her. I mean, I read the complaint.
No, I wasn't mooching off her. I was just asking her for, you know, simple money for the bill. That's all.
That's what she was complaining. Don't play with paper around me. So you're having the argument in the car.
Correct.
And what happened?
We got in a major argument about money, about the Sprint bill and everything. And she said, oh, I'm not going to pay for the bill. I don't have to pay for the bill. You know, I was like, well, you used the phone. You know, I think you should be responsible for the charge if you're going to use the phone. And she said no, and I says, fine. You want to be that way towards me? I will take the limo money, and I'll use that limo money to cover your part of the bill since you want to pay me the money. And we'll take it from there. It'll be fine. Well, from that point on, she decided to call her mother and say I was threatening her, made a huge big deal out of everything. She said, bring me home, bring me home, bring me home. I said, fine, I'll bring you home. When she told me she wasn't going to pay the bill, when she was on the phone with her mother, I actually called Sprint, and I had the phone shut off right then and there. And I guess that's when her mother panicked and decided to call the state police and the cops, and I had the cops.
That was really stupid of you, Raymond.
Yeah.
Girl is talking to her mother,
Yeah.
right? So her mother knows she's safe, she's well. You pick up your cell phone and you call Sprint and you say, cut off the other number?
If that was my phone,
I was.
how can I cut it off?
Listen, don't speak.
I
I'm
was
not talking to you.
All right.
I was not expecting them to shut off right then and there, because I didn't think they could shut off.
What
the
did you
phone with
say to
phone
them
service.
to have them shut it off right then and there?
I asked them if they could
curious.
shut off the service, and no, basically you can't have incoming or outgoing calls.
And they said, okay?
They said fine, but I didn't think they could do it during a phone call. My mistake.
Well, you found out that they could.
Yeah, I did the hard way.
Tell me what happened. Were you arrested? Were you
No, I
charged with anything?
No, I was not arrested.
Well, then what happened? So
Just
what
the
do you...
embarrassment of a false restraining order because
Okay, so they took out a restraining order against you?
took out a restraining order on me a couple days later.
You have a copy of the allegations that you made in the restraining order? Raymond,
Yes,
you ever been arrested before?
long time ago.
How long ago?
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. Yeah,
Nothing since.
nothing.
You work? You have
Yes, I
a
work.
nice job?
Decent job.
What do you do?
Actually, I'm training to be a manager at McDonald's right now.
So you're working at McDonald's?
Correct.
Okay. You don't look like a bad guy, Raymond. You don't look like you have a bad temper. Does he have a bad temper?
Oh, yes.
Never touched you, did he?
No.
You have a bad temper?
No.
Huh?
No.
She have a bad temper?
She has her moments. she has her moments that she
When
can
I'm
flip
with
out.
you.
Oh.
Well, either you have
Oh,
a
hey.
temper or you don't have a temper. You understand? Daughter sometimes has a temper?
Yeah.
Sometimes. Do you think you overreacted to this a little bit?
I don't. I was scared if he shut off my cell phone.
Well, see, Raymond, that was your mistake. Do you understand?
Yes.
That was really your mistake. Aside from the fact that when this happened, she was 17. Dating a minor is an issue. I can imagine how her mother felt. She's talking to her daughter. Her daughter's 17-year-old idiot who's in the car, is having a fight about whatever. And all of a sudden, no, don't speak. And all of a sudden, that conversation is interrupted and she can't get back to her daughter. One day you'll have a daughter. You will understand what that must feel like. You understand?
Yes.
The charges were dropped on this protective order?
Yeah. 2 weeks later, on the date that we're supposed to, see if it was going to get extended or not, it got dropped.
Right. Because everybody got cooler. Good. Okay. So, Raymond, next time you'll be smarter. Next time, pick on somebody your own age. You'll be much happier. Look at their birth certificate. Make sure that they're 18 or over before you make a contract with them. Understood?
Understood.
All right, you get $289. $100 for the limo, $189 for his Christmas present that he took back. You, on your counterclaim, get nothing but a good lesson. All right? Thank you very much. Two nice people. Move on with your life. Have a happy life.
Please excuse. You may step out.
He was a very controlling guy, and I just figured put it on national television to see the whole world how controlling he is.
It's okay. It sounds fair. My mistake.
I didn't like him from the beginning because she was only 17.
My mother doesn't know how to stay out of things.
When he wanted her to go somewhere, she had to do it.
She's always trying to tell me what to do.
If he didn't want her to go, she couldn't do it.
Not seeing a 23-year-old again.
I didn't like it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Sarah Borden versus Taylor Marquez. Step forward, please.
19-year-old barista Devin Serra and her boyfriend, Michael Borden, are suing their former roommates, 20-year-old cashier Angela Marquez and her boyfriend, Gary Taylor, for breaking a lease. Angela says she moved out because she was scared to live with Devin.
The two of you decided to lease an apartment with the two of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Leased the apartment when?
December 11th in 2004.
Moved in when?
That same day.
That was fast. How big an apartment?
It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
You're not married?
No.
You're not married?
No,
You're going to have a baby?
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Everything's... and you're all friends, right? Yes. When did you move out?
January 28th, 2005.
Okay, and you want 3 months' rent from them?
Yes.
Because you're stuck with the lease?
Yeah.
And you also say that when they moved out, they took some property that didn't belong to
Yes,
them.
they did.
You'll tell me about that in a minute. And you say you had to move out because she threatened you, and they both told you to go. And you just went. And you couldn't be stressed out because you're pregnant.
Yes, Your Honor.
How old are you?
20.
How old are you?
I'm 20, Your Honor.
Do you have a job?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you work at?
I'm a firefighter.
And you?
Cashier.
Two 20-year-olds having a baby? That would make me nervous.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She grabs the salt and the pepper. She throws it against the wall. She comes after me in my face, picking up her hands like she was going to come after me and hit me.
Oy, 20 years old and you're having a child.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Deb and Sarah and her boyfriend Michael Borden claim former roommates Angela Marquez and her boyfriend Gary Taylor owe for breaking a lease.
Okay. Are you still living in the apartment?
Yes, we are.
Do you have new roommates?
Not yet.
How much is the rent?
$8.65 a month.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a barista.
A what?
A barista.
What's a barista?
I work at Starbucks. Cashier, make drinks.
Yeah, they make burritos.
No, barista. No, really, seriously.
A
what's
barista, yeah.
Is that what it's called, a barista?
Yes.
So you work at Starbucks full-time?
Part-time.
What else do you do?
I'm a student.
How much do you make from working as a barista?
I make $7.20 an hour.
How much do you take home every week?
Every 2 weeks, I make about $200.
And that's what you support yourself on?
Myself, yeah.
And what about you?
Seasonal firefighter.
Seasonal firefighter.
Seasonal firefighter.
What does that mean?
Work with the Forest Service, so wildland firefighting, just with the summer.
What do you do the rest of the time?
Right now, I'm working as an athletic trainer.
You train people individually or what?
It's with the high school.
How much do you make?
It's $12.66 an hour, and I bring home about $2,000, a little over $2,000 a month.
Okay, so you can afford the rent.
Yes.
Great. You're going to stay in this apartment?
Yes.
Why don't you sign off on the lease?
We did, Your Honor. We tried.
No, you either did or you tried.
We did.
You did sign off
yes.
on the lease.
My fiance had gone to the manager's office and asked for a release form. And we showed it to them, and they said they weren't going to sign us off if we didn't pay the February rent.
You left there because of your own safety, is that right?
Yes.
You had security deposit.
Yes, Your Honor.
How much security deposit did you put down?
$250.
That's for both of you, was the security deposit?
It was actually $450, but in half, it was about $225 each on deposit from each couple.
From each couple?
From each couple.
Okay. You moved out January 28th. Why shouldn't you be responsible for February's rent? They certainly couldn't find somebody else in 2 days to rent the apartment.
Because January, I would say the 21st, on January is a Sunday. I had, like, the last straw with them. I was, like, in a mood that I couldn't talk to them. I didn't want to just go out there and say stuff. And so finally I told Mike if we could talk. And he said, sure, meet us for dinner here at the house and we'll talk. So we talked about it. We sat there. I went first, and I told her how I felt and everybody. And then she went, and she said how she felt and whatnot. Well, all of a sudden, she went crazy. She went out of this world. She pulled out of her chair. She started screaming and saying, I'm not happy that you're pregnant. It's not fair that you're pregnant. I had an abortion. I did this and this and this and that. And she thought, it's my fault that I brought you together, and you're pregnant. You're going to suffer, and you're this and that. And then she just pulls out of her chair. She grabs the salt and the pepper. She throws it against the wall. She goes back to her room screaming and just going crazy. She comes back out of her room throwing stuff, just hitting walls and whatnot. She comes after me. Like she was this close from me, in my face, picking up her hands like she was going to come after me and hit me. Then
what was she saying to you?
Saying that she couldn't take it anymore. She didn't like living with me and Gary, that she hated the fact that I was pregnant, and she had to see me happy. She didn't want to see me happy. And I was like, okay, don't you want to see me happy?
Oy, 20 years old and you're having a child.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Now, why were you upset?
We were all upset.
I assume you were all upset.
Yeah.
Good. I don't want to be upset.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be upset. Where are you living now?
We're living somewhere else now, in another apartment.
They signed off on the lease on January 25th.
That was the date I got the papers, and that was the day I wanted all of us to get the signatures so we can get off the lease.
Did you or did you not sign off on the lease?
We signed it, and they had to sign it. The manager told us, we cannot get you off the lease unless they sign you off because they're still staying there.
Fine. Court will draft an order 5 days from today. Do you all live in the same town?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
You're all going to meet in the landlord's office. 9 a.m. Sign the release form. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
I am going to award you their share of February's rent because they had an obligation to pay at least 1 month's rent for you to spend that month looking for a new roommate if that's what you wanted to do. I think that that's fair, don't you?
Yes, Your Honor.
When you sign off on the lease, you will also get a check for $250 for your security deposit. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
If you don't go there 5 days from today, I'm giving the plaintiffs the right to come back and ask for a judgment for the remainder of the lease. And they will take it out of your pay. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand the order?
Yes.
Good. Now, let's get to what property you say they took when they moved out.
When they were moved out, they took a lot of belongings and stuff.
Oh,
when they moved
a
out.
lot of belongings doesn't help me, madam.
They took food, they took
I don't
cleaning
care.
supplies.
Are you kidding me or what? Other than food and cleaning supplies.
That's all they took.
I hope you've replaced them. You don't want the food back, do you?
No.
Good. Okay, you understand the order?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may.
Parties on Lombard versus Romano. Step forward, please.
33-year-old Lauren Lonborg is claiming her former lover and business partner Charles Romano assaulted her. She also says he owes her money for bailing him out of jail and for a computer.
Order. All rise.
Judges number 61 on the calendar in the matter of Lonborg versus Romano. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir.
I've read your papers and I'm trying to decipher them. A little complicated. What I gather, Miss Longborg, is that you were both in a romantic and business relationship with the defendant.
That's correct.
How long was the romantic relationship?
We started dating in February of '95, and
when did you go into business together?
June 30th, July 1st of '95.
And that was a pool business?
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, sometime in '95, the defendant was using your van.
Right.
Stopped for speeding. He had some outstanding warrants from tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And you bailed him out.
Right.
How much did you pay for the bail?
For that one in July, it was $2,050.70.
All right, let's take that one first, sir. Tell me about that incident with the van.
I got pulled over. It was towed due to no license.
No, you had no license.
Correct, I had no license. Okay. I don't think I was arrested that day. I'm not sure. They did tow the van. We got it back. But as I was taking care of tickets, since I had a lot of failure to appears, and these tickets were 5 years old, they decided they wanted to hold on to me when I went in to take care of them. And that's when the bail was, that's when she would bail me out.
Bailed you out and paid the tickets.
Right.
Did you pay her back?
Of course. Yes, ma'am.
Let me see.
Okay. Well, through our business relationship, Mrs. Longmore ran the business and was paying herself back for many other things, but also the tickets. I do have the business books here, which is in her writing.
Your Honor,
just a minute. You say she was paying herself back through writing checks.
To herself, correct. Marked loan payment.
Is that correct?
This was a personal loan guaranteed by him to pay me back from his personal funds, not through the business.
Well, did you take any money out of the business other than your salary?
I have not taken a penny out of the business for a salary. I loaned the business initially $4,000 to buy the first route.
Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
And $25,000 in January of '96 to buy a second route. The loan payments that are coming out of this checkbook for the business were for the purchase of prior pool businesses. Has nothing to do with his personal legal problems.
There came a point in time, I assume, when the two of you romantically separated, and I assume at that time...
There was some disagreements. He's a very hostile and angry person and very manipulative. He lived in my home with his children. In my home, I cared for them and paid for them, and I did many things for him. And he did some things for me, helped me take care of my daughter. And I had a zero tolerance for drug use, and he came home one time after he'd gotten stoned with his buddies, and I had packed up all his stuff to move him out, and when he came home, he just packed it, he just moved it right back in and said, never do that again. So that was October of '95. So I've been patiently trying to resolve these conflicts and working on it, and it's just been very difficult. He's very manipulative, and he knows my vulnerabilities, and he presses on them.
Were you paid back all of the money that you put into the business?
No, ma'am.
You told me it's about $29,000 that you put into the business.
Plus the van, right.
Plus the van.
Which he sold.
Did you sell the van?
Yeah, yeah. She signed the pink slip in a bill of sale. It was paid for. I didn't sell it. I traded it in. I bought a pool truck.
I changed the name after the assault where he beat me up.
When was that?
This particular assault was December 19th of '96.
Was he arrested for this assault on you?
He was, yes. And he made bail. And the person that bailed him out that time got paid back within 10 days.
What happened with that case?
He pled guilty on June 16th, and he got 1 year and 5 days suspended sentence, 3 years probation.
Is that correct, sir?
Here, if you want to know what I got, I'll give it to you right here.
I don't know. I want to know if you pled guilty. You don't have to look in your papers for that.
I didn't assault her, first of all.
You didn't assault her?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
But you pled guilty to it?
Yeah. He beat me up 3 times within a 15-hour period. He made bail and went right to my apartment and beat me up again, and that's when he stole the van the first time.
That's incorrect. That's incorrect.
There's pictures and everything. It's all...
That's incorrect.
There's a huge case down in India.
Mr. Romano,
Yes,
you pled guilty to the assault. Is that correct?
No, those charges I don't know what I pled to. It wasn't those original charges. I was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, which I was...
What was the deadly weapon?
Supposed to be a bat.
A baseball bat.
My child's bat.
No, it's a Louisville Slugger.
Where did he hit you with it?
On the leg right here.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You have to have witnesses in order to establish that to me.
Phone numbers. Give them a call.
You give him a call. That's not my job. My job is to hear this case, sir.
And later today,
Miss Marion, you can collect cans in the street and get $15 a week. You have to work and earn $15 a week because you have an obligation.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Former business partners and lovers, Lauren Lonborg and Charles Romano, are fighting over business debts, a computer, and bail money.
Miss Longborn, right now I have, on your side, $2,060.70. Now I'm going to hear about this cross-complaint. Mr. Romano, you are cross-complaining against her in the amount of $2,100 because you say she wrote letters to your accounts.
Yeah, she wrote it.
So let me hear about that.
She wrote a letter, pretty nasty letter.
I have the letter.
Yeah, I've got a copy also. Pretty nasty, stating a lot of falsehoods, making it look like I had beat her up, put her in the hospital for 10 days.
Well, let me take a look at it.
Mrs. Longborg had some stability problems early in our relationship.
Let me read the letter.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you'll come back.
Okay.
Well, you seem to, in a chronological order here, describe not only your business, but your personal relationship with the defendant.
Right.
Something, quite frankly, Ms. Longborg, I don't understand. I don't understand why you would have sent the letter talking about the fact that he beat you up, talking about the fact that you were hospitalized for 10 days.
Because that's, I throw the hospitalization in because that's when a lot of everything happened.
Your daughter, who was 9 years old, died.
That's correct. And I was a wreck. And that's when he took advantage of me.
That is not true. Mrs. Longborg stayed with me after her daughter passed on, and after she got out of the hospital for 2 weeks in March, from March 15 on, she was getting kicked out of her apartment.
Well,
and
listen to me, it sounds to me as if she has had a very difficult time.
Yes, she has, definitely. And
I mean, you lose a child, that's the most difficult thing in the world.
This child was severely handicapped. She was a special child to me and my children. I love this little girl just as much as anybody. She was taken to my mother's daycare. I treated her just like she was one of my own. I mean, like Mrs.
That's all true, but it doesn't give him license to steal everything from me.
Why did you write this letter?
At the time, the DA had assured me that this was going to trial. This was the 5th trial date, and that Wes was looking. I didn't say he was going. I said it was told to me that he may be spending as much as up to 1 year in prison or in jail for these crimes. Wes was making arrangements with his buddies to take over the accounts, which these are incredible estates, and I would not trust his buddies.
Ms. Longmore, there is something disingenuous about what you say to me. I'm going to tell you why, madam. Because if your concern was for the business, a very simple letter to the clients indicating that there may be an interruption in service. I cannot vouch for the personnel who are going to be dealing and servicing with the accounts, and since you've been dealing with me over the phone, I want to let you know I am no longer associated with the business and cannot personally vouch for the people who will be servicing your pool in the event that Mr. Romano is not with us for a year. You instead chose to, in a very systematic way, allow these strangers into your private life.
That was my choice.
Well, now, you have to establish to me, sir, that you had some loss as a result of that.
Well, I lost, it has changed. I lost one more customer as of this letter.
Well, you're going to have to establish to me that your loss of business was as a result of this letter.
Right here. Here's these people. As this gentleman was with me as we're on the route, people are coming out. Hey, what's this letter? Are you going to jail or not?
Now, listen to me, sir. You have to have witnesses in order to establish that to me.
This gentleman right here witnessed. They said, I don't want service anymore. I don't want to get in the middle of this. I'm sorry. Thank you for your service. Goodbye.
Now, listen to me. They have to come to court.
They don't want to get in the middle of it. They don't want to come to court.
Well, they may not want to get in the middle of it, but you've established one part of your claim. The second part of your claim is that as a result of that, you lost business.
Phone numbers. Give them a call.
You give them a call. That's not my job. My job is to hear this case, sir. Your job is to bring witnesses into a court so that I can question the people and make a determination as to their veracity and what motivated them and ask them the questions, not somebody who overheard them. That's why we do not allow hearsay in a court.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
she got a payment once every month. And if she didn't, she sure got on my case and got it somehow.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Former business partners and lovers, Lauren Lonborg and Charles Romano, are fighting over business debts, a computer, and bail money.
Unless the clients are here to tell me that they stopped using your services, sir, because of this letter, I am not entertaining your cross-complaint. I mean, I think that the letter was terrible. It was very poor taste, very bad judgment, and certainly unprofessional.
I felt no other alternative.
She's trying to slander my name for me to lose customers because she has nothing to lose. She is not part of the business. She is no longer part of the business as of December, and she's merely just trying to ruin my name.
How do you determine that?
Miss Longborg.
Sorry.
I'm not getting into whether you own any piece of this business or not. Certainly, if you owned a piece of the business and you wrote that letter, that would be dumber than dumb. Mr. Romano, I also am going to tell you right now, I do not believe, sir, that the plaintiff has been paid back all of the money that she loaned the business to start it. You can't even look me square in the eye and say she's been paid back all the money. But that is not the subject of this lawsuit, because that's far more than the jurisdiction of this court. I am entertaining your application for the money that he owes you as a result of the personal loan that you made to him for his bail and for the tickets, because I really don't believe that you have been paid back for that. So I'm awarding you a judgment in the amount of $2,060.70. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll back up to your right, please.
I have zero tolerance. You can do that on the day one.
I smoke pot once in a while. Shoot me. You want to do it right now? Shoot me.
Am I done?
And now the next case.
All parties on Olson versus Marion. Step forward, please.
34-year-old Brenda Olson is suing her childhood friend, Nikki Marion, for not repaying a loan. Nikki says she doesn't have the money or a job.
According to your complaint, Miss Olson, the defendant was a childhood friend of yours. And there came a time when she needed some money and you lent her money.
Correct.
She refuses to pay you back. So tell me about the loan. When was it made? Why?
Well, she came to me. She was back payments on her house that she had just bought, and then her car had been breaking down and stuff. So she needed some money to repair her car and to catch up on her house payments so she wouldn't lose her house. So I borrowed her the money on one of my credit cards.
How much money?
At the time, it was about $3,098. As time went on, she paid, wrote checks to my credit card and everything was going good, and then she wrote some bad checks to them, and I got bad credit over the deal. So she written them an apology letter, which I brought with me, too. And she got my credit all good again, and then she started sending them money orders. And just recently, like about 4 or 5 months ago, she lost her job, and she told me that she just couldn't pay me anymore, and so I asked her to borrow the money from her parents because I couldn't afford to pay it all off either. And if I would have paid monthly, I would have been ending up paying more than I ever borrowed her. And she told me that she asked her parents, and her parents said no, and that she just wasn't going to pay me. So I told her I was going to take her to court. She said, well, get in line with everybody else that had judgments against me. So I felt hurt because I did it as a friendship thing and wasn't going to see my money.
How much money in total does she owe you now?
Now, whole total, probably about $3,600.
Do you have proof of that?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see the proof of that, please, and I would like to see the letter of apology that she sent to you. Thank you. Miss Marion, how come you borrowed this money from your friend? You did borrow it, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Well, how come?
To have my car fixed and to make some payments on my house.
Wasn't there anyone else you could have asked for the money? Relative? Parents?
No.
Why?
My parents won't borrow me money.
Have you borrowed money from them before?
Years ago.
Did you pay them back?
No.
Is that one of the reasons why they won't lend you money again? Okay. So you went to your friend, and she lent you the money.
Correct.
So why don't you pay her back this money?
Well, first of all, I don't have a job, and I have no income.
Why not?
Because I was laid off of my job of 7 years.
When?
In November.
Let's talk about before November. You weren't paying her back before November.
That's not correct. Prior to November, I was paying her. I was giving her cash and money orders when I could.
When you could?
Well, she got a payment once every month. And if she didn't, she sure got on my case and got it somehow.
You seem to have a resentment when you say she got on my case.
Yeah, because this is I don't know, it's a rivalry for us. I mean,
why?
Because it's back and forth. I've lent her money, she pays me, I've lent money, it's back and forth. It's been for years.
How much money did you lend to her?
Over the years, I don't have a true record of it. We've known each other since we were little kids.
I'm talking about big money, Miss Marion. I mean, did she ever borrow $1,000 from you?
No. I'd say in the hundreds.
Paid you right back, though.
And she paid you back?
Yes.
Well, that's the problem. What's your excuse? What's your defense to this case?
I don't have a job, and I can't pay her the $50 a month that she wants. And when I lost my job, I called her and asked her if I could pay her less than that, and her attitude was fine.
That's what the interest is on the credit
card. And then 2 weeks later, she calls me, and all of a sudden, I'm taking you to court, and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't ask to never pay her. I asked to pay her less until I got a job.
She has to pay these bills on her credit card because this money was borrowed on her credit card.
She chose to put it on her credit card. Thing is, I didn't go up to Brenda Olson and say, Brenda, please borrow me money. Brenda knew my situation. Brenda offered to borrow me the money. How she chose to get the money, how she chose to get the money was her choice. If she chose to put it on a 17% credit card, that's her choice. I didn't ask her to do that.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
How much are these monthly payments that you have to make?
At least $60 because $35 is interest alone. How are you ever going to get it down?
So you have to pay at least $60 a month. Most of it is interest, but some of it is principal.
Sure.
$60 a month. Now, I'm not really good at math, but that comes to a little less than $15 a week, right? $15 a week. Ms. Marion, you can collect cans in the street and get $15 a week. So you can't tell me that you can't work and earn $15 a week. Doing something. Do you understand? You have to work and earn $15 a week because you have an obligation. And this lady doesn't look to me as if she's rolling in dough. Doesn't look to me as if she's living on a trust of $1 million. Do you work?
I clean houses on my hands and knees.
And how much do you get a day for that?
Well, usually about $35.
Very good. Why don't you do this? See if one of the people that you work for can give her a day's work.
Yeah.
She could just go to work one day, clean somebody's house, and, madam, you will have your monthly payment to her after 2 weeks.
Minus the $50 a day daycare, I'm negative $15.
Just a second. Let me ask you this question. Work out an arrangement with a friend of yours so that one day you watch your friend's child and one day they watch your child, and you go out and get a job, and if it's cleaning houses like the plaintiff does in order to get her money, that's what you do. We understand each other? Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Have the back go to your right, please.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Jermaine versus Kaplan. Step forward, please.
Makeup artist Candace Germain is heartbroken over the killing of her beloved cat and wants her next-door neighbors, Toby and Mark Kaplan, to pay the veterinary bills. She blames their German Shepherd for her cat's death.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the court, please. All rise.
Judges number 21 on the calendar in the matter of Germain versus Kaplan. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
How long have you folks been neighbors?
Almost a year.
According to your complaint, Ms. Germain, you were the owner of the cat. The defendants own a dog. What kind of dog do you have?
German Shepherd.
And unfortunately, you allege that their dog injured and your cat subsequently died as a result of those injuries.
Yes.
And you are seeking the vet bills that you incurred. Now, why don't you tell me how that happened?
I was in my backyard watering, and Toby came to my gate and called out my name and said, "Candace?" And I said yes, and she was very calm about it. So I said, "Go to the front door," because my gate was locked. So on my way to the front door, I stopped, I got a glass of water. I took my time because it didn't sound urgent. I got to my front door, I saw she was holding my cat, and I said, "Oh," I go, "my cat looks dead." I go, "But sometimes they look that way." Then I noticed her tongue was hanging out of her mouth, and I said, "Oh my God, what happened?" And she said, "Well, we had just gotten home with our family, and I let my dog in your yard, as I usually do, to go to the bathroom."
That's not true.
That is exactly what was said. And she said, it took me no more than a few minutes to bring my baby carrier in the house, and then she said the dog came back with my cat in her mouth.
Where had your cat been?
The cat was in my yard at the very top of the back of the gate, which is like behind my house.
But in your yard?
Yeah, in my driveway.
So you took your cat, and what did you do with the cat?
Well, I took the cat, and I couldn't find my keys, so I insisted that she take me to a vet, because I didn't even know where a vet was. And
how long had you had the cat?
10 years.
What kind of cat was it?
A Himalayan.
What color? Blue Point, Teal Point? I know a little bit about cats.
I'm Blue Point.
I love their faces, don't you?
I know, they're a totally different kind of a cat, if you know. They're not like regular cats. My son had seen the cat up in the driveway 5 minutes prior to her coming to my fence with the cat.
Okay, so you took the cat to the vet, and what happened when you took the cat to the vet?
They said she had severe trauma, and that they did x-rays on her, and they said that she needed to stay overnight for care, that she wasn't well enough for me to take her home, but they didn't provide care there. So I had to take her to Studio City for overnight care. And they told me, just go ahead, pick up your cat at 8 a.m. She'll be, ready to go back to the vet. I called them right before I left my house, and it seemed everything was okay. When I got there, they said that she's gone the other direction. She'd never make it back. So they had me bring her next door for surgery.
You want to take a minute? 1 minute?
So I took her, or they transported her next door to the Studio City Animal Hospital. When they spoke with me, and they did not say that, she's not going to make it or anything. They just said that we can't, say either way. And I said to go ahead. And
what did they want to do?
They said she needed to do surgery because her lungs, she had a leak in her lungs, or air in her lungs, from the punctures.
So they did the surgery?
Yeah. Then they sent her back over to the overnight, and I kept checking on her. One time I checked on her, and they said she was stabilized, and then I checked on her again, and they said she wasn't doing well. And then at midnight, they called me, and they said, she's now probably has like a 5% chance of living. And she'd already been through a lot, so I just told them to let her go.
And what were the veterinary bills that you incurred?
I have them on here. $14.34,
That's just from Studio City Animal Hospital, the overnight care. I paid cash. That was a couple $100. And then Sherman Oaks Veterinary, the first place I took her to, was a little over $300.
You have those bills?
Those are all the bills. That's the overnight. All right. Here's this. Actually, this is the total for, and then here's Sherman Oaks Veterinary Group.
Thank you. I have $1,786. Does that sound right?
I don't know. I didn't add
Between
this.
these two bills, yeah. Okay.
There's three bills.
Who's going to speak? Mr. and Mrs. Kaplan?
I am.
Tell me what happened on that day.
We were at home. We had finished our dinner, and then we went out to get my daughter's booster seat out of my husband's car, and we brought the dog out with us. She comes out with us oftentimes and stays right near us, or she'll go piddle and come back.
But she was not on a leash.
She was not on a leash. So she walked out with us. We walked to the car, which was about 10 steps from our front door, opened the door, pulled out the booster. Mark went around to the trunk of his car to open up the trunk and looked on the sidewalk, and our dog had her cat by the scruff of the neck walking gingerly towards us as if she had found something injured and brought it to us. And I even reached out and I pet the cat. Cat felt dry, bone dry, fine. Didn't even have any indication that anything was wrong. Looked up at me, and I thought, well, I don't know why she even brought it over. She's never done that. And we started to walk away. The cat got up and started to walk towards the house. And when she was walking, I thought she looked a little funny. So I thought, well, let me check and see. Maybe this is the way the cat is, or maybe there's a problem. So I picked up the cat, and she still hadn't said anything. We hadn't heard anything, seen anything. I picked her up, and I went to Candace's front door. I knocked. There was no answer. I heard watering in the backyard, so I went to the gate. I yelled out about 4 times to Candace before she answered, and I said, I think there's something wrong with your cat, but I'm not sure. Can you come to the front, come, let me in? And she said, the gate's locked. I'll go in the front door. I'll come out. She came to the door after just a couple of minutes, and she looked at the cat. She said, oh, my God, what's wrong with the cat? Is the cat dead? And I said, I don't know what's wrong with the cat. Gabby brought her to us, and I don't know what's wrong. And I tend to be a calm person by nature, so I wasn't melodramatic about it. And all of a sudden she said, oh, my God, her tongue's out. And then Candace started, oh, my God, is she dead? Is she going to go? And she just, with the tears and screaming and carrying on, and she was very upset, which I could understand. Being a pet owner, you get upset if there's something wrong with it. So I took Candace to the vets with her cat. And at that time, the vet had said it could be, it appears to be a puncture. She could have been hurt. It could have been from an animal, bite, whatever. But they didn't know, so they took her back to stabilize her. And it wasn't until the next day or the day after she came over with bills and handed them to Mark. And Mark said, well, what is this?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know how long it takes to hang somebody?
Well, it takes a while.
Less than 2 minutes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Candace Germain claims her neighbor's dog killed her cat and wants Toby and Mark Kaplan to pay all the vet bills.
Ms. Germain, I have a few questions for you. I have to get the logistics. Was your cat within a confined area?
She was just on the, no, she wasn't. She was just on the other side of the fence.
And do your two properties abut each other?
Yes, our driveway's between the 2 yards.
So that your cat was outside of an enclosed area and your dog was
in my yard.
Outside of an enclosed
Was
area.
outside of an enclosed area.
That's
and
correct.
when we saw her, she was on the sidewalk in the front.
Her dog went into my yard.
But you didn't see that.
There are many dogs in our front yard all the time.
Can I say that my cat, because she's an indoor cat and she'd accidentally gone out, never leaves that top of that driveway. She does not walk around the front of the yard because she's usually in the backyard.
You know what we're talking about, Ms. Germain? What we're really talking about is there is a certain responsibility that you have when you let a pet, whatever that pet is, outside without a leash, or a cat outside without being confined to an area. What I was trying to ascertain was whether there was any proof that their dog somehow got into your fenced property where this cat was.
No.
And there is none. So the next question is, did the dog actually do the damage to this cat? Now, I want you to describe to me how this German Shepherd came to you with this cat in his mouth.
Well, she was carrying the cat by the scruff of the neck like a female dog would carry its pups. And the cat was just sitting there. She wasn't trying to get away. She wasn't doing anything. She was just carrying.
She doesn't know any
There was
better.
no sound. There was no skirmish. There was no anything going on. And the dog walked right up to Mark, right up to him like, you know, there's something wrong here.
Well, you know, sometimes I have seen dogs, I don't know whether you have, come in with squirrels, come in with all kinds of little creatures outside to sort of bring a gift home to their owner. Look what I have for you. And they're not bringing that home to say, listen, this is an injured pet, and I'm coming to you because I want you to fix it. They're coming to you and saying, I have a trophy to give you because I love you.
Wow.
That's what they're saying.
This would have been the first time she brought this trophy home.
But she's never.
Go ahead.
This would be the first trophy that she'd ever brought home in the 2 years that we've had her.
Has she ever brought home
No.
Has she ever brought home a
Nothing.
sick pet for you to help?
Nothing.
No.
So she has never brought home a sick pet for you to help, which is really what you are suggesting.
Well, she also never carries anything ever in her mouth. She won't even fetch a ball. She won't do anything.
But she did this
Yes,
time.
she did. Yeah.
She did this time.
Right.
And so your supposition that she was bringing you home a sick pet to show you that she had brought home an injured animal is merely supposition. I want to tell you right now that it strikes me more likely that, for whatever reason, she was bringing home a trophy to her owners. And unfortunately, the trophy was
less
hers.
than a 2-minute period of time, though, that it was there, and the...
You know how long it takes to hang somebody?
Well, it takes a while.
Less than 2 minutes.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. And later today...
And actually, I feel sorry for her new boyfriend because she's probably going to ruin him like she has me, so...
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Toby and Mark Kaplan say they shouldn't be held responsible for the death of Candace Germain's cat, that any dog in the neighborhood could have been responsible, not just their German Shepherd.
I'm not a German Shepherd psychiatrist, and I'm not a behavioral scientist, so I can't tell you what German Shepherds usually do. All I can tell you is you have a dog that you've just told me never did anything like this before.
Right.
But did it now?
It carried a cat to me, yes.
And so, based upon the proof that I have, which is she had a live cat with no problem, and your dog brought her cat, your big German Shepherd brought her little Himalayan cat in the mouth. The cat suffered trauma. Cat didn't survive. It appears to me that I am satisfied by the required quantum of proof in these proceedings, which doesn't have to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It has to be proof by what we call a preponderance of the evidence. You know, more evidence than not. Your dog caused these injuries, so you're responsible for these bills. I would also suggest to you that when you have a big dog, and now you have a big dog that for one reason or another brought you prey once, that you see to it that that dog is not let out without a leash, even for a minute, unless it's in your enclosed property. Because you never can tell a dog that is perfectly fine for years and years all of a sudden goes off like that. So I am satisfied that the injuries that were caused to her cat, which resulted in the cat's death and the subsequent medical bills that she is responsible for, were a result of what your dog did, and I'm awarding the plaintiff $1,786. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Excuse me, step out. I'll back to your right, please. Sure.
Thank you.
We wanted to keep peace in the neighborhood and not have problems, and it hasn't been since this incident. In the rudeness towards us from them, the cold shoulders, which is understandable though, and then sprinklers shooting up over our cars that are on our yard that haven't been fixed, and loud music that vibrates our house and everything, and so, you know, they're just rude to us.
Party's on Bonnet versus Roberts. Step forward.
35-year-old engineer Ronald Bonnet is suing his ex-wife, Sandra Roberts, over a check that bounced.
Mr. Bonnet, the defendant has been served in this action. and has not appeared. So I'm prepared to enter a default judgment in your favor, sir. But before I do, there are several questions that I have.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, the defendant, who is your ex-wife, borrowed money from you.
Well, actually it wasn't borrowed. She asked for the checks, or she gave me checks because she needed the cash immediately. And her landlord...
First of all, why would you lend your ex-wife money in the first place?
Well, she was living with me.
Why?
After...
Why?
Well, she has a 2-year-old son who, well, actually he's 5 years old now. He's 2 years old when I first met him. He doesn't have a biological father of record. So he called me his father, and I'm very attached to the little boy. So I went and allowed her to come back and live with me for the little boy's sake, because she come back from wherever, Missouri, I believe it was, and until she found a place of her own. I allowed her to stay with me.
How long did she stay with you?
Oh, it was about 3 months till about January. And then an incident occurred where she started having a lot of her male friends calling in the middle of the night, and she'd talk to them for hours. She wasn't providing anything around the house. She was like basically living as if I was, a parent or something, taking care of her. And so I asked her to leave, and then she got violent one day on the car. I was picking her up from work. She didn't have a vehicle at the time. She took the mirror off and started hitting me with it and stuff. So I said, you have to leave. You have to go. And it's not good for the environment of your son. So she got an apartment and all. Well, she started getting behind on her bills because she, for whatever reason, and she basically wanted to either come back to live with me or, she needed help with her bills. So for the little boy's sake, and I still have feelings for her. I mean, I know in my head that, it never work out between us. I still care for her and adore the child. So... Do
you visit with the child?
I was up until recently, until all this mess with the checks go, and so I haven't seen him quite a while now.
That's too bad.
Yes, it is.
That's
I
too
feel
bad
sorry
for him.
the little boy, and then I feel sorry for myself, of course.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How much did you give her that she failed to return?
Okay, what it was at the time I didn't even have the money, but she needed $250 immediately for her rent in cash. So she wrote me a check out, but I didn't have the cash in my account at the time. And she needed it that night. Then I finally agreed to give it to her. So I went to the National Check Cashiers, and they have a $37.50 charge. So she wrote me a check for the $250 plus the additional $37.50. And then she told me about her car being in the shop, and she couldn't get her car out unless she had the money for it. And it was additional $250. So we went to her car shop, and I wrote her $250. And she told me at that time, she says, well, I get paid Saturday. This is like on Thursday. She said, the money will be good by Monday. So she wrote me the second check for $250, which is what I wrote out to the car dealership. And I have all this information here.
So far I'm up to $537.50.
Right. And so it comes to Monday. So I held up. I didn't really need the money at that time. So I held up to the Monday, go to her bank, and I asked him, I said, you have the money in the account? No, we don't. So then I tried getting a hold of her. She avoids my calls. And
but she still owes you the money. She stopped payment. According to your paper, she stopped payment on these checks.
Yeah, well, eventually, then I deposited the checks. I was trying to do is prevent her from getting her bounce check charges and from me getting them.
So all told, including, sir, the fees for these checks being stopped, came to $602.
Right. Well, that included the mirror, because one of the things I was asking for was that she reimbursed. Because then when I got upset with this, and she promised she would never hit me with the mirror and stuff again, then she turned around and then she did this with the check. So I said, well, I'm going to go for a reimbursement of where you broke the mirror. That doesn't count the medical payments of where she injured me with the mirror.
How did she injure you with the mirror?
Oh, when she broke it off, she started beating me with it.
Where?
Oh, or about I put my hands up, so I have them about my wrist and arms and stuff.
Mr. Barnett, you better put a period to the end of this relationship.
Oh, it's already happened.
Okay. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $602, the amount of his request. Thank you, sir.
Excuse you. Step out, sir.
And
versus Gray. Step forward, please.
33-year-old Laurie Vona is suing her ex-boyfriend, Randy Gray, because she says he filed false charges causing her to be arrested. Randy is countersuing, claiming that in a violent rage, Laurie threw an electric can opener at him, cutting off a portion of his ear.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 140 in the matter of Vona versus Gray. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat.
Ms. Vona, you have a rather interesting complaint, to say the least, madam. It's clear from your complaint that you assaulted the defendant and cut his ear in half. And
I assaulted him?
Yeah. You sort of acknowledge the fact that you did that. You're going to tell me the whole story, but you acknowledge the fact that as a result of picking up an object, you assaulted him and his ear was split. Is that the ear?
Yes, ma'am.
I see it. So you're suing him for $5,000 that covers the cost of your being arrested and bail and lawyer's fees, plus loss of work in defending yourself because he subsequently dropped the charges.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Okay, so let me hear, and then we'll get to your countersuit, sir, which you, I understand, have just filed today and served on the plaintiff. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Miss Vona, tell me about it.
Here's the statement to police, which ended...
No, tell me, don't give me the statement to the police. You tell me what happened. You two were together, were an item for years.
He came by my house.
Just a second. You two were an item. You lived together, dated...
No, he wasn't living there.
Dated for a long time. How long?
On and off?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Over a year.
Okay. But it was not a good relationship. It
No.
was an abusive relationship,
Yes.
you claim. So tell me what happened on this day.
He came by my house. I have the can opener here. I have pictures of the house to describe how the kitchen is. And he came by my house. He was really, really drunk and calling me names. And I said, "Go away, Randy." And I went to call the police. He grabbed the phone out of the wall, so I couldn't call the police. He came at me. He said I was, because I don't know why, he was drunk, very drunk. He'd been sitting up there for 3 hours.
Sitting up where?
It's, where was he? Bill's Market, where he goes to get drunk all the time. The corner market.
Okay, so he came into the house?
So he called me a bunch of names. I said, "Leave me alone." And when he saw that I was going to call the police, he came after me. I thought he was going to hit me. I just reached for whatever I could. I said, "Stay away from me. Get back." And he came at me anyways, and I said, "Stay away." And I just swung it, and it hit him in the air. And I really did not mean...
Let me see the can opener.
It's kind of old and been around. I'd like to demonstrate.
So's his ear. It's been around, right?
Your Honor, may I add something else?
Okay.
His last girlfriend... Oh, okay. She broke his jaw with a 2x4.
So, well, he doesn't have much luck with women.
And he had it wired shut.
Okay, so is that the can opener that sliced your ear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so what did you do after you hit him with the
I
can
called the
opener?
police right away.
And what happened when you called the police?
Well, he grabbed the phone out of me. He said he was going to kill me, and I just ran because he's yelling about his ear.
So you left the house?
I left. I called the police. I said, "Here's the police."
Don't tell me the report. I'm more interested in what you have to say.
Okay.
Okay, so
I
you
left.
hit him. You saw he was bleeding.
Yes. I left, and I had my landlord right away. I said, "Mr. Fowler, take Randy to the hospital." And he went over to take Randy to the hospital. He wouldn't go. He had duct taped his ear.
Just a second.
It's in a police
Now,
report.
Shh, Ms. Vona.
Sorry.
Hold it. Now, Mr. Gray, I read your answer. Were you drunk when you came to her house? No, don't look down.
I had a few beers, yes.
A few is how many?
4 or 5.
So you were a little bit...
No less than Lori had drank that night.
Yeah, but she didn't go to your house. You went to her house.
No, ma'am. We lived in that house together. We co-inhabited that house. It says so right in the police report.
When was the last time you slept there?
The night that this happened?
Well, before that night.
The night before that?
Had he been sleeping there? Look at me, Ms. Vona. Had he been sleeping there? You sure?
Yes, I swear.
Okay, well, maybe you forgot where you were sleeping, sir. Listen, you got to the house and you were a little bit drunk.
No, ma'am, that's not how it started at all.
Well, how did it start?
We both came home from work at the same time. Lori picked a fight with me.
About what? Stop playing with the papers. She picked a fight with you about what?
About what I'd found in her purse. Because I asked her for a cigarette. When I walked in the door home from work, I said, "Lori, do you have a cigarette?" She said, "Look in my purse." I looked in her purse, found something there, shouldn't have been there, confronted her with it. She started screaming at me. I walked down to the store, give her and myself time to cool off, came back. I sat down on the...
So you left the house and you went to the store.
Which is 3 houses away.
And is this at this store where you had a beer or two?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So that part of the story isn't so different. You weren't in the house, you had a few beers, And then you came back to the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened when you came back to the house?
Lori threatened to call 911 on me because we were arguing, and every time we got in an argument, that's the first thing she would do is pick up the phone, call 911, say, help, he's trying to kill me.
Mm-hmm. So,
Then
what
I
happened?
told
She
her-
went to the phone, she's calling 911.
No, ma'am. I picked up the phone. I said, you know what, Lori, I'm going to call your work and tell them what kind of person you really are. I picked up the phone.
What were you going to tell them?
What was I going to tell them? Her actions, what she does, how she treats me, how she acts around the house, what she does
Our
off
boss
work.
wouldn't be interested in that, sir.
Well, that's right. That's when she hit me over the head, not once, but twice with the can opener, leaving a 3-inch gash right here and doing this to my ear.
Now, what I found interesting about your answer to this was you said that immediately after this happened, you fell asleep on the couch. And you waited for her to come home to take you to the hospital.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would she, after being so furious with you, to split your head open, why would you, if you were in your right mind, fall asleep on the couch and think that she was going to come home and take you to the hospital?
Because this kind of thing had happened many times before, only not to that extent.
All right. Now, ultimately, sir, you decided not to press charges. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
But you did, in fact, file a police report, so she was arrested.
Yes, ma'am. That's because when I came back to her house a week later after this happened, I went to the hospital, I left, I went and stayed with my mother. I came back to get my belongings, which was a lot of paperwork, tools, clothes. She told me that she'd thrown all those away. I had a pickup truck that was parked there. She had slashed all the tires, broke all the windows, stabbed the body parts full of holes. And that's when I told her, you know, I'm going to go press charges against you, Lori. And then she towed it out in the street to be towed away by the county.
You didn't see her do all the damage to the truck?
No, ma'am, but it was parked in front of her home. I'm sure she either did it or witnessed it.
She may have. Did you do all the... Ms. Vona, stop shaking your head now. It's very important that you tell me the truth, madam, because I'm like a true... Stop looking.
I did not do that, Your Honor.
Well, who did all those things to his truck?
His ex-girlfriend's son, Jeremiah. She lives up the street. His ex-girlfriend, the one who broke his jaw with the 2x4. She couldn't get rid of him for 4 years. He started yelling at her that day, and Jeremiah came by and broke your windows. Why would I break your windows? It already looked ugly in front of my house. Why would I want an uglier truck in front of my house?
Okay.
The truck was ugly, ma'am. It was no doors. And then I would like to demonstrate with this can opener that it's not consistent with an attack. But it was broken and how it got hit.
His ear is split open. Don't make it worse for yourself.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The reason we have a court, Ms. Vona, is because two people cannot agree. Two people cannot agree.
Yeah,
so
you
you
and
just...
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Randy Gray is being sued by his former girlfriend, Lori Vona. She claims Randy had her arrested on false charges. Randy is countersuing because in a violent rage, Lori threw an electric can opener at him, cutting off a portion of his ear.
Now, what I find interesting is you didn't have her arrested immediately. Why?
Because I have a lot of feelings for Lori. I have a lot of feelings for her 2 children. I didn't want to see anybody get thrown in jail. I knew what kind of things that spousal abuse does to people nowadays, the new laws, and I couldn't see throwing somebody in jail, making her lose her job and her children. I just couldn't do it.
Listen to what she just said to me.
Yes, ma'am.
She attacked you with a can opener, your body, your person.
Yes, ma'am.
She slit your ear in half. I can see where it's cut. And you didn't press charges against her. Then she damaged your truck. So you decided to press charges against her. Does something not sound right to you, sir? She almost, according to you, she almost killed you.
No, ma'am, I didn't say that.
Well, that thing, hitting somebody on the head with that thing can kill them. If it's placed right, right? It could almost kill you. It only goes to show you, men have this peculiar thing with their trucks, their cars. Do you understand how foolish that sounds to a woman? You know, a woman would say, God, you put your hand on my finger.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to have you arrested.
And I would have been arrested if I would have ever laid a finger on her or attacked her the way she says. I would have been in jail, guaranteed.
Okay. Now, why are you... So she's suing you for false arrest.
Yes, ma'am.
You ultimately dropped the charges against her.
Yes, ma'am. I called up the district attorney that was in charge of her case and told her I would come down there and lie for her. I lived at her house at this time when she was going to court for this.
Okay. Now, were the charges ultimately dropped?
I was completely exonerated when this had the evidence.
Just a second. Did you have a trial?
No.
Now, Miss Vona, don't try to do a fast
that's
talk on
what
me.
it says here.
Don't do a fast talk on me. Did you have a trial?
No, I did not, ma'am.
If you didn't have a trial, then you weren't completely exonerated.
Oh, that's just what it says here.
Just listen to me.
I didn't know it even meant. I had to look it up in the dictionary.
Right. What happened is he refused to press charges and he refused to come forward and testify at the trial.
I think they would have went ahead anyways if they believed that I was guilty of anything, because if you hurt somebody, whether or not they press charges, the district attorney will go ahead and press charges.
Now you're in the head of the district attorney.
No, I'm saying that's...
He said he wasn't going to prosecute.
I don't believe that he did that.
Oh, I believe that he did that. I believe that. After he sobered up a little bit and looked at the truck and said it's not so important, and he said he really has feelings for you, he didn't want you to go to jail. I believe that he did that. But that's not false arrest, Ms. Vona. You did, in fact, cause injury to him.
He made a false statement to the police resulting in my arrest.
Well, let me see what the false statement was.
Oh, sure. I didn't know you didn't see it.
The statement that he gave to the police, according to his declaration, madam, is exactly what he told me. Now.
So I can't... He lied in his report to the police.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. How could he have been working 3 hours before 6:49?
Listen to me.
That's the first statement's a lie.
Listen
It goes on to lie and lie, lie. It's false arrest.
His statement, no, it isn't. You just acknowledged to me.
Yes, I heard him. It was in self-defense. I was in fear of my life.
Fine. That's not false arrest, madam. That's what the police officers observed. Him injured, you not. That's not false arrest. He had you arrested because you did, in fact, slice his ear in half. So.
It was self-defense, ma'am. And
if you
came at me again, I'd do it again.
Well, then I would have there was never a trial. That's for a criminal trial to determine whether it was in self-defense.
They did. They exonerated me. Exonerate. That's what it says.
Ms. Vona, you can dance. You can dance from today till tomorrow. Your lawsuit is dismissed. Now let's get to you. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a counterclaim against her for how much? I want to see the papers that you filed.
I don't believe this.
I want to see the papers that you filed.
So you don't even have to review the evidence?
Ms. Vona, were you ever served today with a copy of a cross complaint by Mr. Gray?
Just today, ma'am. I had no time to prepare for it.
Can I see what you were served with?
Whatever they gave me.
Do you have it? Let's see, he doesn't have his
somewhere in
copy.
here.
Did you file that cross complaint in a court, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Which
Sacramento
court?
Small Claims Court.
When did you file it?
Friday, this last Friday.
All right, Ms. Vona,
I gave both copies to the lady.
Could I see what you were served with today, please? I'll wait.
Well, I really don't feel like giving you anything.
Well, Ms. Vona,
but I will.
Of course you will.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This is a good weapon, ladies. Can openers work wonders.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Randy Gray is being sued by his former girlfriend, Lori Vona. She claims Randy had her arrested on false charges. Randy is countersuing because in a violent rage, Lori threw an electric can opener at him, cutting off a portion of his ear.
That's a very narrow legal issue, Ms. Vona.
So
filing a false report causing somebody to be arrested is a very technical legal four corners.
So if it was a false report, how come?
There is not a false report, madam. He alleged that you hit him with a can opener, causing his ear to be sliced in half. At least two police officers responded to the scene, saw his ear sliced in half, and took that report. That's what the report says.
That he refused to press charges.
Then he changed.
You're not reading all the evidence.
Then he changed his mind, which he is absolutely entitled to do.
If he tells the truth in a complaint, I wouldn't have been arrested for 3 felonies. For sure, if he says I attacked him with a can opener, they're going to slice me with all these charges.
Are you going to show me what he served you with today?
If I can find it.
Good.
I don't know. I just had everything. I just can't believe that is self-defense, and you
just find
you
the
just said
document.
yourself they were false charges. I heard you, the whole court heard you. So, whatever. I already lost, so go ahead.
Can I see that, please?
Oh, have to have, you know. You just said he filed a false police report. You're acknowledging that. But you say that I am not, because you don't, I'm not going to say it.
Sir, you filed this report. You allege conversion of a Chevy pickup truck and a dent to his 1982 Pontiac. That have to do with the trucks that were outside her house?
No, ma'am. It has to do with this case. It has to do with the bail amount. She came by my friend's house here when I was there, told me I owed her bail money, and if I wouldn't get out there and talk to her, she was going to run into my car. I said, I have nothing to say to you. She ran into my car and drove off.
She ran into which car?
My Pontiac Firebird.
Did you do that?
No, ma'am, I did not. And I have the letter. Well, it doesn't matter what I have because you're not going to look at it anyway.
I have a witness that she did it in front of his house that witnessed her, him, his wife, and his neighbors.
Step up, please.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you see?
I seen her come to my house, ask for him to come out, and he refused to talk to her because he didn't want to have nothing to do with her. And she went over and hit his car first with her fist. I guess she couldn't do enough damage with that. Then she got in her car and rammed into it and then took off.
You have an estimate for damage to the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it, please?
Can I be excused? This is all a joke.
No, you can't be excused until the case is over. You know, listen to me. You have an absolute right to be present during the remainder of these proceedings. The reason we have a court, Ms. Vona, is because two people cannot agree. Two people cannot agree.
Yeah,
so
you
you come into court asking a court, both of you, whether or not the court can resolve an issue. If you are not happy with that judgment, that doesn't mean you stomp your feet like a baby and pick up your marbles and leave.
What a joke.
Bird, she can leave.
Thank you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
What were your medical bills, sir?
$367.43, which I haven't paid either.
Let me see them, please. All right, so far I have damages in the amount of $1,234. You have a drinking problem, Mr. Gray?
No, ma'am.
I think you do. I want to tell you something. I think you do. And while there is no excuse for what Ms. Vona did to you, I believe that in all probability, you are not a stranger to the courts in the area of domestic violence situations, whether you were the victim or whether you were the perpetrator. Do you understand?
Yes,
It's happened to you
I
before.
understand what you're saying.
And I would suggest to you, sir, that probably a good deal of that comes as a result of your drinking. Bird, I hear her making a racket out there, so I want her out of my courthouse. Get her out of my courthouse. So, I'm entering a judgment in your favor, Mr. Gray, in the amount of $1,234, which are your medical bills and the damage to the truck. That's all.
Excuse, you may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And dairy farmer Bird Miller wants 31-year-old Jason Hager to pay the damage caused to his pickup truck after clubbing it. Jason claims it was self-defense.
Order, all rise. Judge, number 204 on the calendar in the matter of Miller versus Hager. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Shame on you both. Always strikes me as when two adult men get into a car and get into a contest and let their testosterone take off and rule their heads, there's trouble, especially when there's a child in the car, like this gorgeous little blonde thing. Mr. Miller, you're suing Mr. Hager because you say that after some sort of a dispute in your car, he was driving his, you yours, he attacked your car with a club.
Yes.
And caused almost $400 worth of damage to the car. Tell me how it started, sir.
I was making a turn off of Valley View Street. I was going south. There's a frontal road there beside of it. Hager was coming, going south also on it. He run the stop sign. And as a result of it, I almost hit him. If I hadn't stopped, I would have hit him. I blew my horn. He raised his finger at me, and we proceeded down the frontal road.
So you're both now going in the same direction?
We're both going in the same direction.
And this is your grandchild?
Yes.
She was in the car with you?
Yes.
Where was she sitting, front or back?
Well, it was a pickup, so she's in front.
Right next to you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We came to an alley that runs down behind a shopping mall, and we proceeded down it, and we got to the end of the stores.
Which car was first and which car was second?
He was following me.
Just a second. His car was first, your car was second.
Yes.
Were you following him, sir?
Yes.
Why?
I was behind him. I mean,
were you following?
I'm going in that direction.
He was chasing me.
Shh, just a second. I'm going to get to you in a second, sir. You said you got to an alley.
Well, it's an alley, and it's also behind the store, but it's a parking lot also.
Well, were you going into that parking lot, sir?
No, I wasn't going into the parking lot.
So you were actually not behind him. You were following him.
Okay, I was following him.
Now, why were you following him?
So I could get his tag number.
Okay. And then what happened?
As we got to the end of the stores, there's also another small frontal road that leads to the front of the stores. He partially made the turn and stopped, jumped out, grabbed his club, and ran at me while I'm stopped. I had, in the meantime, stopped. He ran about 30 feet towards my truck, ran up to the side of me, took a swing at me. I pulled my truck forward, and he hit the back of my cab.
Can I see the damage to your car?
If you'll notice, Your Honor, the damage is at an angle as if you were swinging something, and you'll see that it's also right in line with me in the truck. So if I hadn't pulled forward, he would have hit me in the truck.
This has an open top, sir?
No, it's you looking at. May I get it to you? Oh, come on, surely. I take better pictures than that.
I got it. I got it now. Oh, I thought it was a convertible truck. I hadn't seen one of those. All right. Now I got it. All right, Mr. Hager, let's hear you, sir.
Well, what he said is correct as far as he was following me. I was very close to my home. I didn't want him, I wasn't going to go home knowing he was following me. I became fearful, wasn't sure what I should do. So yeah, I stopped, and in an attempt to defend myself, knowing that not knowing what he's going to do, I did take my club. He sees me stop. He's coming at me. He puts his head out the window of his truck and says, "I'm going to run you over." That's when he started to come at me with the truck. I jump out of the way, and he backs up a little bit and comes at me again. The second time is when he came close enough to me that I could swing and hit the truck.
All right, so I have a few questions for you, Mr. Hager. You live in that area, sir?
Yes. I was less than a block away from my home.
And how long have you lived there?
About 18 months.
So you know where the local police precinct is?
Actually, I found it after this.
You mean you didn't know before?
No. Well, it's a very large city. I wasn't sure where to go.
I don't believe you, sir. You see, I see this. You see, I see this around here.
Well,
and I'm like a truth machine. So don't tell me that you didn't know where to find a policeman.
I went to. Well, no, that would have been the alternative. Was driving around.
That's an alternative rather than getting out of your car with a club.
Right.
Because it doesn't seem to me to be logical, sir, that if you're in fear of your life, you are defending yourself against a 2-ton truck with a 2-pound club.
Right.
You see, that doesn't make sense. To me, what makes sense is if you're in fear, you stay in your car. What kind of a car were you driving?
A Camaro.
So you stay in your Camaro and you drive around until you see a police car, if you don't know where the local police precinct is.
Right.
Right.
But I thought of that after, but in the fear, I wasn't thinking that logically.
Listen to me, Mr. Hager. Why were you in fear, sir? You were in your car, windows closed, right? Windows closed.
No.
You could have closed the windows, Mr. Hager, right? You do have
yes.
electric windows in your Camaro?
Yes.
So you press a button, you close the window, and you keep driving, and you say to yourself, I got some nut here behind me. I'm not going to get out of this car. I'm going to stay in my car. But you get out of your car. Where was the club?
On the passenger seat.
You pick up the club, and you get out of your car. That doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Hager.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Wonder how afraid he was when he stuck his finger up. Could we ask him that question?
And later today,
Make me look like a liar. Make me look bad when you know you was stripping and you know you was working, Nicole. Don't stand there and lie.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bird Miller says Jason Hager's gesture led to violence, smashing Bird's pickup.
You pick up the club and you get out of your car. That doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Hager. It doesn't. It's illogical, sir.
To drive around looking for the police, I needed to, at some point, decide I'm going to stop and defend myself. That was it.
Defend yourself against what, sir?
This gentleman.
He's in his car.
I don't know that he's going to threaten to run me over. I think he's going to get out.
How can he run you over in your Camaro, sir? Sitting in your car, how can he run you over, Mr. Hager?
He can't.
Right. Sitting in your car, he can't run you over. Only when you're outside of your car, standing there armed with a weapon, can he run you over. Your mistake was getting out of the car. And then you hit his truck. So you were in a combat posture with a weapon. I mean, I'm not suggesting that what this man did was correct. I think, Mr. Miller, to be quite honest with you, sir, you're old enough to use your brains, and if this guy ran a stop sign, as you say, of course, you didn't run the stop sign. Is that correct?
Correct.
I knew that. I knew that's what you would say. But you have a very precious cargo. Not you, her. And so if you have a very precious cargo, and if you were fortunate enough, and God was watching you, and you didn't have an accident at that stop sign, you take a deep breath, and you say, phew, finished. I'm grateful that there was no accident, and you keep going. If you can get his license, that's fine. But to follow him into an alley is not swift.
It's really not an alley, Your Honor. I understand what you're saying, but
you understand what I'm saying.
I don't mean it's a,
I understand, but you got hot.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I'm not denying it at all.
Yeah, well, you want to get hot with you alone in the car. That's one thing, but you don't get hot when you have a baby in the car, especially a baby that looks like that.
Could I add something to this?
Sure, sir.
Okay. He said I almost hit him there at the stop sign. If you look at the pictures, you will see there's a medium between Valley View and where he would have been sitting. So, in other words, I would have had to jump across the medium in order to hit him.
Interesting, not terribly relevant, because we're not talking about what happened at the stop sign. What we're talking about was Mr. Hager's. You both exercised poor judgment on that day, in my view. But Mr. Hager's judgment is going to cost him the amount that you claim you spent or will spend to fix your car, and I assume you have a bill for that.
Your Honor, I have a bill for the damage. I don't have a bill for a rental car. It'll take 3 days to fix the truck, which is $25 a day.
Well, Mr. Miller, for your bad judgment, it's going to cost you to rent your car.
All right.
For his bad judgment, it's going to cost him to fix your car. And the grand total here is $279.80 to fix your car. Mr. Hager, it was a very dumb thing that you did, because he may not have been the kind of person that he is, and he may have, in fact, run you over. And your
sure of that.
And your 2-pound club wasn't going to help you. So,
well, my question is, if he cares enough about this truck to get it fixed, why is he chasing people and threatening them with it?
Mr. Hager, He wasn't smart to try to chase you to get your plate number, and I assumed that that's what he was trying to do. He did not get out of his cab. You got out of your car. Dumb. Stupid. And not only did you get out of your car, you got out of your car with a weapon. So it's going to cost you. The amount it's going to cost you is the amount that it's going to cost to fix his car. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Thank you, Bill. I'll have the back go to your right, please.
Come on.
And now the next case.
Parties on Cruz. Ambrosini versus Hernandez. Step forward, please.
16-year-old Nicole Ambrosini and her 20-year-old boyfriend, Moses Cruz, claim exotic dancer Lisette Hernandez owes them a refund on a condo.
You folks were living in the same hotel that the defendant was living in temporarily. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you became friends?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Well, we didn't become friends there. We became friends at work.
Okay. Don't tap. And there came a time when you were going to buy a condo. Is that right?
Yes.
And you approached the defendants to see if they wanted to rent a room in your condo that you were purchasing.
Exactly.
According to these papers, you said yes?
Yes.
And you needed some money.
Exactly.
How much money did you need?
$700.
And as sort of a down payment on their room, you gave her the $700?
Correction, Your Honor, that was $750. I have 2 contracts here signing. I had to pay a $500 first month and a $250 security deposit.
Okay, can I see what you have here,
Yes,
please?
ma'am. These are 2 pieces of evidence that I have, 2 contracts that Lisette signed herself.
Okay, fine. So let's assume it was $750. This is some contract.
I was in a rush, Your Honor. Grabbed the first thing I could. Next one's better.
Okay. And then, for some reason, which I'm sure that you will tell me, you decided not to move into the condo, and she gave you back $100, according to these papers. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, she has.
And you want the other $650.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was dancing with me. We were both dancers.
I'm
okay?
sorry, I'm 16
And I made
years old.
$3,000.
I'm 16 years old.
I made $3,000, and she know that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Nicole Ambrosini and her 20-year-old boyfriend, Moses Cruz, want the money back on a condo from exotic dancer Lisette Hernandez. Lisette says they moved out without giving notice.
Well, there came a time, I gather from these papers, that you moved out of the hotel but did not move right into the condo.
Right, Your Honor.
Where did you move?
Okay, at that time, we needed
This
a
is your
place.
boyfriend?
Yes, this is my boyfriend, Moses. We were looking for another location to live while we were waiting for the condo. We were going to just stay in the hotel. It was very expensive, so Lisette kindly offered us to stay in her boyfriend's house and pay $100 a week. We did that, and we stayed there for about 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, and we paid him for every week. At that time, we were told that she needed the money immediately, and we gave that money to her within 3 days because she had said she had a closing to meet. And it would
Closing
be,
on the condo.
Yes,
I understand that.
She said it would be about a month to get it, okay? So in our minds, we're thinking, okay, we only have to tough this out for about a month. We wound up not getting a condo or not moving into a place for 3 months. We were waiting to move in for 3 months.
Just a minute.
For 3 months, Your Honor.
Did you stay in the boyfriend's house for 3 months?
Yes. No, we did not. We stayed in the boyfriend's house for about 3 weeks. The other times we were staying at the hotel, and then my father was moving out of his apartment, and he was moving out half of the month early. So
you moved someplace else.
Yes. Right.
But there came a time when you ultimately said to her, I don't want to move in.
Right.
And when was that?
That was in, I guess, February, March, April.
How much
April.
after you had left the hotel and moved into the boyfriend's house did you tell her, I want my money back, I don't want to move in?
About a month.
That's a lie.
Okay, you tell me.
That's a lie. It was one day. Okay, this is what happened. When they moved into the apartment with my boyfriend, with me and my boyfriend, they was paying $100 a week, which is true. Okay, now, when they was moving out, I didn't know they was moving out. My boyfriend tells me one day, Lisette, do you know that they moving out? I said, what? he said, yeah, they're moving out. I said, no, I don't know nothing about it. He said, well, I'm getting ready to leave, so when I leave, you talk to them and ask them. When I came to you and asked her, I said, Nicole, y'all moving out? She said, yeah, we moving out. My father left me. Wait a minute. My father left me. My father left me an apartment, and I'm going to move into it, and we're going to keep paying the rent there or whatever to stay there. I said to her, so what do you expect me to do? You expect me to take the money right now and just give it to you when I don't have it? You know I'm trying to get this condominium, and I don't have the money right now to give to you. Okay, but before that happened, one day we had went out, or we was working or whatever. She was waitressing, and I was working in a place where we was working at. I made $4,000 that day, and I said to Nicole, I said, here, you know, I gave her like $1,200 to help her out or whatever. I never asked her for the money back. I never said nothing to her.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Your Honor, that's exactly what it was, $1,200.
Miss Hernandez, I'm going to simplify this. I've just, while you've been telling me this whole story, been looking at these two papers. These two papers, I assume that you recall signing. Is that right?
Right, and I agreed to pay her back the money. I did.
Okay, so
and I told her that I would pay for it as soon as I be able to get the money.
You signed the contract. So you owe her the money.
Right.
How much did you pay her back?
$100.
So you owe her $650.
Right, but she moved to Texas. But how did she expect me? I live in Florida. She lives, hold up. She gave me an address and expects me to make her money order every week and send her $50.
She said she would do
stamp
that.
and everything.
Moses.
I said to her, let me finish.
Sorry,
they said they will come back they was moving back to Florida, whatever.
Miss Hernandez.
She said that.
Moses.
Moses.
You got to train him better.
I try, Your Honor. I try.
You got to try harder. If you don't do it now, it'll be too late. Do you understand?
Yeah.
They get into bad habits.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Miss Hernandez, you owe her the $650.
Right.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $650.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I wanted to make this easier for you, but in that time that I was struggling, trying to get money back, broke, Lisette wasn't paying us, my mother, who is a witness here today, sent me $300. I was living independently at the time.
What are you lecturing about? Just a second. What are you lecturing about? You sued for $650. I gave you $650.
Okay.
Say goodbye and thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nerves.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. 32-year-old Irene Hipsher is suing her former fiancé, John Lemos, claiming that he stole her pet dog, Buddy, and secretly kept him for 2 years. John says he refuses to return the dog because it was neglected.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 251 on the calendar in the matter of Hipsher versus Lemos. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am. Gentlemen, have a seat.
This is a really interesting case. Miss Hipsher, this is your dog, Buddy.
That's my dog, Buddy.
Don't cry yet, okay? Because you have to tell me what happened.
I know.
So take a deep breath. You want some water?
Yeah, I'll take some. Thank
Okay.
you.
According to these papers, you and the defendant lived together with your 2 children. I assume that these are your 2 kids.
Yes.
The relationship was going south. You, Mr. Lemos, wanted her out of your house with the 2 children.
Correct.
And she was living there with the kids and Buddy.
Exactly.
According to your papers, you started eviction proceedings against her, correct?
Yes.
I'm not going to get into why. And sort of at the tail end of these eviction proceedings, it was about 4 months into trying to get her out of the house. According to your answer, you went over to the house and took her dog, right?
Correct.
You say you have a good reason for going over and taking the dog, but you took her dog. She didn't know where the dog was for how long?
2.5 years.
And you had seen him during those 2.5 years?
I have telephone records otherwise and stuff to prove that him and I were in communication over the telephone, visiting each other at each other's homes. The whole 9 yards.
Had you discussed Buddy?
Yes, a lot.
When you came home and found Buddy missing, what did you do?
I immediately called John at his mom's house and stuff, and at which time he told me that he had no idea where my dog was. He had no inclination of, he says, Irene, I'm sorry, but no, I didn't have anything to do with that. I feel really bad. Made it sound like really personal and stuff. So I went, other than to the Contra Costa County Animal Control, and I set up, that's when I started setting up the missing reports or otherwise and stuff. I searched the premises, went around the blocks, went around all streets, even made up signs. But that's my family member. That's
okay. How long had you had Buddy at that time?
I had Buddy for 7 years before John took him.
Okay. Now, how did you ultimately find out that Mr. Lemos had your dog?
My son Joshua was playing with his new girlfriend's son. I have no idea what his name was, but he had mentioned, Joshua asked his son, how many dogs does John have? And the boy came back with 2. Well, John automatically saw that the conversation was happening, pulled away the child from my son and stuff, and told him, no, you gotta whatever, took him back, and then when the 2 confronted again, the 2 children, the boy says, oh, no, I made a mistake. John only has 1 dog. He has Zeus.
So then your son came home and told this to you?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And this was at his house, place of residence. I was visiting the neighborhood.
Okay, at his house, but not his mother's house.
No.
Which is where the dog finally ended up.
Yes.
You're his mother, correct? Yes. So tell me how you confronted him, ultimately.
I went to his house and stuff. Neither one of these 2 people were home, and whenever I looked over the fence, that's where I saw Buddy.
So you went to his mother's house?
Yeah, and that's whenever I found out that, because at first and stuff, I didn't let John know that what was being said between the kids or that I even questioned it, because if I did, he would have just ultimately ran with my dog. So I took it upon myself and stuff without even questioning him or without saying anything to him. I showed up at his mom's house knowing that she was at work and he was at work, showed up and just peered over the fence.
So then after you found out that they had your dog, what did you do?
I went to the San Leandro Police Department and filed a case against him and stuff, which I have copies of or otherwise. It's 9711035. Okay.
Did you call them and say, I want my dog back?
Later on that day.
Who did you speak to?
I spoke to John at first. I just hear her in the background saying how she's going to kill my dog before she gives him back to me. She's going to put my dog down. I could hear her screaming in the background, yes, John. And then all of a sudden and stuff, he's telling me and stuff. At first, it was a good conversation. It was like, oh, no, how you doing? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I asked him, I says, John, I says, I heard you have my dog. You know, he says, Irene, I don't have your dog. I haven't seen him. I says, John, I was there. Ask your mom if I went by, because I went by her place of employment. She was standing outside, and I went by in a nice little cute little red car and stuff, and honked my horn, and she's all, not knowing who the hell I was, because I'm sure she would have given me the #1 finger first. But she waving at me and everything and stuff. I called it up.
All right, Mr. Lemos. You took her dog, right?
Yes, yes.
I'll hear your story.
Okay, the reason why I did take the dog was like the last 3 to 4 weeks before she finally got out of my house. She wasn't hardly even around at that time. All of her belongings were still there, but there was numerous times that I would go to my house, check on my house. We couldn't live together, of course, so I was staying at my mother's house. There was numerous times that I'd go out there and I would see that the dog had no food or water. And there was a couple of times that I had went out to my house, spent the night out there, and she never was there. I don't know where she was. I had no way of contacting her because I didn't know where she was, going from point A to point B. And so I had felt that the dog was being neglected because when I would go there, he wouldn't have any food or water. And I felt compassion for the dog, and I thought that I could give him a better home which she could provide, because the last 4 weeks, it seemed to me like she could have cared less about the dog, or even trying to get out of my house, for that matter.
Mr. Lemos, I read your answer, sir. You know, judges are supposed to be able to relate to situations with a certain amount of common sense. Let me suggest to you what my common sense made from your answer. Let's pick a month. Let's say in December you decided to separate. She's living in your house with her 2 children. She says, I'm not moving now. You go down to municipal court, housing court, and file papers to have her evicted. She gets an extension of time. Is that what happened?
That's exactly what I did.
Because the judge looks at her, looks at her 2 children, and says, I'm not going to put her out on the street tomorrow, even though it's his house. These people lived together for 2 years. She needs a little time to relocate. Meanwhile, you're getting more and more annoyed So a month goes by, and 2 months go by, and you're getting hotter and hotter. And 3 months go by, and finally in month 4, you decide that the family pet is being neglected. So I'm going to take the family pet. Maybe next time, if you don't move, one of your children will be missing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When John first took him, I was crying because he was my pal.
And later today,
I hope that in the future
you have also
you
had
make your
problems,
dream come
so
true and you really become Carlotta.
This was not my dream.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 32-year-old Irene Hipsher is suing her former fiancé, John Lemos, for stealing her pet dog, Buddy, and keeping him for over 2 years. John says he only took Buddy because Irene was neglecting the dog.
Now, maybe your compassion for the dog was mixed with a little animus towards the plaintiff, but you have no right to take her animal. And then for 2.5 years, you lied to her. If you thought there was a legitimate question of animal neglect, you have the right to call authorities and say, this animal is being neglected. You didn't do that. How come?
Well, at that particular time, before that period, she was still around with the dog. Up to the last of 3 to 4 weeks, I didn't see her that much anymore.
So if you didn't see her that much anymore,
I mean, as far
the
as her
few
being-
times that you went by the house, sir, and the dog was there, why didn't you call animal control and say, look at this dog. It's all skin and bones. It hasn't been fed. It hasn't been watered. It's being neglected. Then they would have taken the dog. And in all probability, if you were a person who was responsible, you might have gotten her dog. But the dog wasn't skin and bones, right, sir?
No, he wasn't.
No. So the question is, now what do we do with Buddy? The dog is her dog. The dog belongs to her. He brought the dog to you? Madam.
Yes.
Why don't you step up here? You're his mother.
Yes.
When he brought the dog to you, what did he say?
Just about what he told you, that he felt that the dog wasn't being treated right because there wasn't any food or water. And so he said that he felt that we could take care of the dog better, and he hadn't seen Irene. He didn't know where she was, so...
And you didn't question it?
No, I didn't.
Did you tell her you took the dog?
No.
So you've become attached to the dog, too?
Absolutely.
But the dog is hers.
I agree.
So it has to go back to her. Period. That's the end of discussion.
All right.
Yes, sir.
You know how she said it was being treated well? Her backyard was way worse than what we have now. They have apples all over the ground, not even grass.
I don't even have an apple tree anymore.
Tell me your name.
Jason.
Jason.
Pimentel.
Do you think this dog knows who you are?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let the dog go.
Come on, buddy. Come here, buddy. Come here, yes. Oh, yes. No, that's okay, boy. That's okay, boy. It's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Don't hit him too hard, Jason.
Oh, yeah. That's a good Bobby's. That's a good Bobby dog. Yes, it is.
Now, the question is, Mr. Lemos.
Stay.
You did the absolute wrong thing, and I think that you traumatized not only the plaintiff, she's an adult.
Dog.
But these two little kids, they weren't even there. That's all right. The dog's going to have to get used to, let the dog go. The dog's going to have to get used to your family all over again. But you traumatized two little children who were really innocents, and you traumatized them because you were annoyed that their mother wasn't moving out of your house fast enough.
Buddy.
True.
Buddy.
So,
The kids weren't there the whole time.
for want of a better word, sir,
Buddy.
you have to be punished.
Buddy, come.
So I'm going to punish you to the tune of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Buddy.
Out the back door to your right.
Mama.
Basically,
So-
it all boils down to he's a mommy's boy. He has a brand new house. He's been living with mommy for the past 2.5 years.
No, I
and him and I've
haven't.
been broke up. Yes, you
No,
have.
I'm back at my house.
And now the next case.
Parties on Innocente versus Sierra Olivia. Step forward, please.
Actress Celeste Innocenti is suing playwright Jesus Sierra Oliva. She claims after he promised her the lead role in a play he was producing, the role was given to another actress. He says it was up to the director.
This is a case about principle. Plus $100.
Exactly.
What's your first name?
Celeste.
Celeste. And your first name, sir?
Jesus.
You are an actress by profession, or is that your avocation?
Well, I wish I earned more money at it, but it is my profession.
Okay. According to this complaint, Jesus offered you a role in a play that he was producing, correct?
Yes, correct.
A big role.
Mm-hmm.
And that play was to be performed at a small theater in September. I believe September 13th and 14th.
12th and 13th.
According to you, sometime later, he advised you that you didn't have the part. You had to audition for it again.
No, he never advised me that I didn't have the part.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, you say I'm the boss, applesauce. You can pick anybody else you like. Carlotta is spoken for.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Actress Celeste Innocenti is suing playwright Jesus Sierra Oliva. She claims after he promised her the lead role in a play he was producing, the role was given to another actress. He says it was up to the director.
He said you had to audition for it again. He had some problems with the production.
He didn't say that I had to audition for it again,
What did
Your
he
Honor.
say?
He did say that auditions would be held. He left a message on my machine in late August, and then when I called him back, he said there were so many new parts and so many people had dropped out. He asked about my availability at that time. And then I told him, well, I'd been working on it for 2 months, and you have to understand, he initially called me to audition. He had gotten my name, and he said, well, you know, I heard you were a very good actress, and I would like you to audition. So at that point, having invested all this time and energy, I said yes. And in fact, the venue had been changed to a better theater, a more inconvenient date. But then I did say, yes, I was still interested.
So you did go and audition again?
Well, no, the director, finally he had gotten a new director because the previous director had dropped out. So the director never did answer my calls or return my calls, and finally I did get a hold of him, and he said, well, rehearsals will begin on next Monday. This was September 1st, Labor Day, and then there will be every Monday and Tuesday until the performance. And then that Friday he called me back and said there were going to be auditions Saturday and Sunday, and I said, excuse me, auditions? I had been working on this role for 2 months, and Jesus had hired me to do this role. And he said, well, then come in and meet me. And then the next morning, being Princess Di's funeral day, I get in there. I was already depressed. I get in. I heard somebody reading for the role, and then I asked Jesus about it, and even then he said, oh, no, you are Mama Carlotta. And then he said, you are the best I've seen so far. And you know, at that point, the director still didn't, you know...
Ultimately, he chose somebody else, the director.
The director told me that Jesus had never told him that the role was precast.
Okay. So he hired somebody else.
Exactly, yes.
And they had promised you a $100 stipend for this performance.
Yes.
You, sir, according to your answer, had some problems with the original production. Is that right?
Yes, I had problems that my theater, which I had for the 12th and the 13th of September, I thought I had already made the deal with the director of the Chicano Center. And it resulted that at the end, he said on July, when I called him, Jesus, I'm very sorry. I didn't put you on the list. Your event is not in my calendar. So I felt terrible because I had already promised my actors that they would be performing on the 12th and the 13th.
Now, let me stop you right there, sir. When you say you promised your actors, this is one of the actors that you promised.
I did.
Now, could you... and then you went out and had to hire a new place and a new director.
That's right.
So you hired a new director.
Yes.
You did the hiring.
I
Why
did.
didn't you tell the new director that this lady had the part?
I told him that I already had 6 actors. I had already lost 6 of them. And the director insisted on being himself Maximilian, or else he would not be part of the production. And then it seemed to me like everybody wanted to be Maximilian, all the men wanted to be Maximilian, and all the ladies wanted to be Carlotta.
Just a minute. Am I correct, sir, that you had already promised her the role of Carlotta?
Yes.
Well, so if everybody wanted to be Carlotta, what difference does it make? This is your production. Why didn't you just say to the director, you can cast anybody else that you want for other roles?
Yeah.
But I already have promised this lady, and for 2 months she's been working on the role of Carlotta. Is there any reason why you didn't say that?
Because I did not ask Celeste to work on the role for 2 months. I told everybody that their commitment would be for only the 2 first weeks of September.
For the performance?
For the performance
No,
only.
just a second.
And the rehearsals.
But she's an actress, so she was working on the part. Did you give her the script?
Yes, I did.
So she had the script from the
Yes.
time you first promised her the role.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
As far as I'm concerned, sir, you had an obligation when you hired a new director to tell him that at least one of these parts was already promised to this lady. Because you had given your word to her. She, as a result of your promise, went out and performed her job, which was to familiarize herself with the role, to work on it for a couple of months. It was within your control to see to it that she got the part, because the director was also your employee. And you could have said to the director, pick anybody else you like, sir. Carlotta's spoken for. You didn't do that.
I did not, because he said, I am going to choose the actors.
Listen, you say I'm the boss, applesauce. You can pick anybody else you like. Carlotta is spoken for. The commitment was for $100?
Yes, it was.
That's what you're suing for?
Yes.
Vindicated, $100 for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next
John Grant versus Grant. Step forward, please.
Account executive Robin Grant is in court with her 2 children, Marie 9 and Robin 11, suing their estranged father, Colden Grant. The kids claim he won't return the possessions they left behind after the divorce.
Order. All rise. Judge, this is number 273 on the calendar in the matter of Grant versus Grant. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Tell me your first name.
Robin.
And yours?
Maria.
How old are you, Robin?
11.
Maria?
9.
This is your dad. That's your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to talk to both of you, because I've read your papers. I'm going to talk to you sort of privately a little bit later. Okay?
Okay.
So what I would like you to do for now is, this is Officer Byrd.
Yeah.
He's going to take you into my chambers for a minute to sit down and wait for me, because I want to talk to your mom and dad for a minute.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Miss Grant, would you step up here, please? Mr. and Mrs. Grant, from what I gather from your papers, you were married in 1975.
Correct.
And these are your 2 girls.
Yes.
You're now divorced.
No.
Separated.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And you lived in New York most of your married life, is that right?
Yes. All of our married life was in New York.
When did you separate?
November of 1986.
No, 96.
I'm sorry, 96.
So you were married for 21 years before you separated?
Correct.
And I gather that this separation was not a happy one. They usually
Wasn't
are not. But that you left New York, Mrs. Grant. Is that
went
right?
to Hawaii. We resided in Hawaii.
Who resided in Hawaii?
Me and the children.
You left your husband?
Oh, yeah.
Why did you decide to move to Hawaii?
Well, I had family there, and I wanted distance. So
Why did you want distance?
It was a horrible relationship. It became threatening. on many levels, and I thought the further the better.
How did you feel as if that impacted on the children?
It had to be negative and positive. It was positive because it took them out of a very harmful situation.
How harmful, Mrs. Grant?
Very harmful.
Was it a physically abusive relationship?
Oh, yeah.
When you say, oh, yeah, you say that very mildly.
Yeah, I can say that now because I'm not in danger anymore. Yes, it was.
Was any of this violence in front of the children?
Yes.
Is that right, sir?
No, it's not true.
Well, if I asked you girls whether they ever saw you being physically abusive towards your wife, what do you think they would say?
They would say no.
Did you get permission from the court to leave the jurisdiction?
Oh, yeah.
I gave permission for the children to
The
leave
courts
with
gave.
her. No, it was my permission that did it.
Why, Mr. Grant, did you give permission for your wife to go so many thousands of miles away with your children?
For my children to go through this, I couldn't let them go through any more court litigation, so it was me that said, let her have full custody and let the children be with her.
Do you have other children, Mr. Grant?
No.
The reason that I'm asking to speak to you first before I speak to the girls is the girls want their things back. That's what this lawsuit is about. I don't know exactly what things they want, and I assume they're going to tell me. But it's always a very sad thing when children are brought into a domestic situation between their parents. There's a saying that always sticks in my mind, Mrs. Grant and Mr. Grant, and that is you're supposed to love your children more than you hate each other when you separate. Children usually need two parents.
They should do.
If they've estranged themselves for whatever reason, either because one parent encourages it or not, they usually grow up eventually resenting the parent that caused the estrangement, and that could be either one of you. So, Mrs. Grant, I'm going to ask you this question. Mm-hmm. Let us assume that it was a miserable relationship with your husband. Mm-hmm. You think it's a good idea that your children should have negative feelings about him?
They're free to have whatever feelings they want to.
Well, you're the custodial parent, Mrs. Grant. So really, children are pretty pliable, you know, and they take their lead from whoever is taking care of them.
No, I'm not going to push the children either way. If they have negative feelings or negative thoughts, they can vent those. If they don't, they don't.
Okay. Well, what things do your daughters want from their father?
What they really want are the things from their bedroom, their baby pictures, videos, stamp collections, telescopes, microscopes, things of that nature.
Well, baby pictures and things, he says he wants to keep because he likes to have them. Mm. And I can understand that. You can make copies of those and send them to the girls, right?
Yes.
That's an easy. The other things are just things, microscope, stamp collection, those things. You have no problem with returning those to the girls, do you?
No, I have no problem.
But it's the pictures and the videos.
It's the pictures and the videos.
And that's also, in this age of technology, you can also make copies, keep one for yourself, and then see that the girls get their pictures and stuff so that they also can look at times when they were little and maybe you were all a family and living happily together. All right, I would like to speak to your children. So why don't the two of you have a seat?
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm telling you that he loves you.
You're telling me.
I'm telling you that he loves you.
You're...
Is it important for you to hear it from him?
No, because it's a lie.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robin Grant is suing her ex-husband on behalf of their two children, Marie and Robin, because he won't return their belongings. Colden says he's being prohibited from seeing his children.
Hello, gorgeous girls.
Hello.
I understand you two are very bright. First of all, you're very tall.
Yeah.
And very lovely.
Thank you.
So you know who I am, and I want to find out a little bit more about you. I've just had a talk with your mom and your dad. And it's always sad when parents get a divorce, right?
Depending, I don't think it's that sad because they're arguing and everything. So it's not sad that they're not arguing anymore.
To me, it was just about happy.
It's about happy. Why is that?
I don't have to go through a bunch of arguing and screaming and stuff like that.
So there was a lot of that in your house. But my sense is that your mother loves you and your father loves you. You're their only children. What things do you want your dad to give you back?
Well, I want my baby pictures.
Okay, let me tell you what your dad said about your pictures and the videos and stuff. Your dad's going to make copies of all the things because he would like to have them too, to see his children. You're his 2 children. He doesn't have any other kids. He loves you. And then you have a stamp collection.
Yeah.
Whose stamp collection?
Both of ours.
And he's going to send that back to you.
That's good.
And the telescope, is that what you want?
Yeah.
And your dad said he was going to send that back to you.
That's good.
Okay?
Mhm.
So let's take care of that.
And our coin collection.
And your coin collection. Very valuable coin collection?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, my mom traveled like all over the world, and she got different like kinds of dollars from different places and stuff like that.
Well, is it your mom's coin collection or yours?
And she gave it to us.
Well, let me tell you this. It's really your mom's coin collection, if she was collecting it. There are certain things that are yours. There are certain things that may be a problem between your mother and your father. I don't want to get involved with that, and I don't think you ought to get involved with that. All right, so let's finish that. This is over. So let's talk honestly, the 2 of us, the 3 of us, 2 of you and 1 of me. You live very far away from your father.
Yeah.
Did you 2 girls ever witness any time when either of your parents put their hands on each other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did?
Yep.
Tell me about it.
Well, once my dad tried twisting my mom's arm and stuff, so I stopped it.
Yes. What else?
Well, sometimes they just get tussling matches sometimes. Tussling matches sometimes.
The 2 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Colton's always trying to like talk over her and and stuff like you're brainwashing them and stuff like that.
That happens. You know your mom loves you.
Yeah.
So does your father. I think you know that. I'm not so sure that you understand that. He really loves you. You question that?
Yeah.
He loves you.
Well, my true feelings are that I don't really want to be around him anymore.
Why?
The way he acts.
Like what? You have to tell me.
Okay. The way he acts is like ignorant.
How?
I can't explain it.
Let's say something to you. You know, the truth of the matter is, ladies, just amongst us 3 ladies, sometimes guys don't always do the right thing just because they're older. Sometimes parents don't do the right thing, mothers or fathers, even because they're parents. And you 2 gals are very smart. So in addition to being smart, you should be tolerant. Just because you're a parent doesn't make you perfect. Your father has disappointed you, right? You're supposed to not necessarily accept it and not necessarily understand it, but just say, he's my father. And I know he's made mistakes, but I'm telling you that he loves you.
You're telling me.
I'm telling you that he loves you.
He's not. You're telling.
Is it important for you to hear it from him?
No, because it's a lie.
No, it's not. He loves you. He really loves you. Would you spend a little time with him today?
No.
No, I've been with him for 8 years, and that's enough for me.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
They did witness a lot of shouting, a lot of screaming, and a lot of mutual pushing. They're very angry with you, sir. Your children will not grow up as whole human beings if they do not have any contact with their father.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robin Grant claims her ex-husband, Colden Grant, won't return their children's possessions. Colden says since Robin won't let him see his kids, he wants to keep the items.
Why don't you step back up, please?
May I ask her to view these, please?
Ms. Grant,
Your Honor?
I am not condoning any act of domestic violence that may have occurred in your home. I will tell you from what I heard from the children, there was only one instance that your younger daughter told me about when your husband twisted your arm. While I'm not condoning that, we're not talking about an ongoing pattern of physical violence that the children witnessed. They did witness a lot of shouting, a lot of screaming, and a lot of mutual pushing, shoving. They're very angry with you, sir. Your girls are very angry with you. And Mrs. Grant, I'm going to make a couple of suggestions to you. In the short time that I had to speak with your daughters, they are so fixed, although your older daughter clearly is sad about it, at not having contact with their father, that I think it almost would border on the criminal if you did not see to it that your children were engaged in some sort of therapy. Because I believe it is a tremendous mistake for children to be estranged from a non-custodial parent the way these children have been estranged from their father. Terrible mistake. But it's a mistake for girls not to want to receive mail from their father, not to want to communicate with him at all. That says something to me about the custodial parent, Mrs. Grant, because I've seen enough children of separation and divorce where there is a lot more domestic violence that goes on, and those children still want to have contact with their father. These children, for some reason, do not, and they were not able to articulate to me any really valid reason for it. So I must attribute that to things that they've heard at home. I think it's a tremendous mistake. I think in the long run you will be hurting your children and hurting them dramatically if you don't change your attitude with regard to him. He's their father. You picked him. You were married to him for 21 years. You were together for 21 years. You made 2 children. These are the only 2 children that you have. And if he is less of a husband or less of a father than your children would like, that's it. I've tried to explain to them he still loves them. They have to feel as if he still loves them. They don't feel that way, and they must be getting that from someplace other than him. So I think you're making a big mistake if you don't encourage your children in that direction and not say to me at age 9 that you're going to let her make up her own mind what she wants to do. Okay?
And I hope that Robin's anger stopped filtering over to the children. It's really her anger that have my children feeling this way.
Well, I don't doubt that, sir, because I've very rarely seen children so fixed with basically what I've heard in the back without the kind of history that would suggest that, that they have a good and valid reason for it. The marriage is over, it's over.
Did Maria relate to you that whenever they want to speak to him that I allow them to call? They stopped calling because he kept lying to them?
Miss Grant, what I'm telling you is there's a difference between children asking to call their father and feeling that they are betraying their mother if they're asking to call their father because she's so angry. Just listen to me, Mrs. Grant. You're shaking your head no. I've been in this business for a quarter of a century. I've probably seen 10,000 separations and divorces. They're all not so different. And children feel that if they ask to contact, communicate with the non-custodial parent, when there's so much anger on this side, that in some way they're being disloyal to their mother. So it's not a question of I let them call whenever they want to call. They have to be reinforced constantly with the idea that their father may have shortcomings, but he loves you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Grant, You have promised me, sir, that you will return the children's things to them.
Yes.
That is their telescope, their stamp collection. I don't know about this coin collection that they spoke about. If you find it in your heart to return it to them, that's terrific. They certainly would like to have their pictures back, so you're going to make copies of all of those things and see to it that they get them. Return their things. It's stupid to have their things. Right?
Well, those are the only memories I have. I have no contact.
Okay.
So right now...
Well, but you know, you don't get warm from looking at a telescope, sir.
No.
So you have to return their things. It's important to them. So you can't be angry and also let that flow down to the children. It's a start. I don't know what will happen eventually, but Mrs. Grant, your children will not grow up as whole human beings if they do not have any contact with their father. By the time they're 20, 25 years old, it will be a void for them. And you should be protective of that. I think that you love them.
It's a void now.
Well, then you have to do something about it. You're their mother. You've moved them halfway across the world. So it's your responsibility to shorten that distance in whatever way you can, because they're going to have a void as adults. If they cannot accept the fact that good, bad, shortcomings, he's done things that disappoint them, this is their father, and if they don't feel as if he loves them, they're not going to grow up strong. That's all.
Party's excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Get ready for the next battle. I hope you're ready. Round 1. Fight! You win. Round 2. Fight! KO. Get ready for the next battle.
Here we go.
Round 1. Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight. You win. Get ready for the next battle. Round 1. Fight. KO. Round 2. Fight. KO.
Not bad.
You win.
I'll fight you anytime.
Get ready.